Part 236. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2357. This was really just a misunderstanding. At that time, the third brother just thought that this planet was an ownerless thing. There were too many such things in the universe. He told him not to pick them up randomly, but he didn't believe it. He didn't expect that he would be offended this time. Your Excellency Jia Yan. Seeing Jia Yan stop, Bei burst into laughter, and the brainwave power and the vigorous body attack movements suddenly disappeared as if nothing happened. Yes, I really think it is an ownerless thing. There are too many things in the universe without owners. I didn't expect that planet belongs to Mr. Jia Yan. Ha ha ha, it's not like we don't know each other. Since this thing it belongs to Your Excellency Jia Yan. I will return it to the original owner. Wait a moment and I will bring it to you right away. The dragon-shaped brain can be regarded as a bright brain, and he figured out the key in an instant. He nodded and bowed to Jia Yan. Not only did he not make any more aggressive behavior, he also restrained his own mist. After a moment, he looked into the distance. Flying away, apparently to retrieve the Edisha star. Jia Yan finally realized that even at the Domain Lord level, he could do chameleon-like things just like he was at a lower level. And I saw three at once. It feels like the Domain Lord level is the same as the ordinary level. There are many guys who can understand the situation. He stood proudly in the starry sky, talking to the two Domain Lords at one point or another, and he hesitated to answer directly when they tried to test Jia Yan's details. Gradually, less than half an hour passed. Master, Master. My love, Edisha finally sees you again. A small submissive voice, with a crying tone, suddenly sounded from the distant starry sky. Then, Jia Yan saw a small light and shadow mosquito, as if it had a real body, flying quickly from the starry sky, crying. Of course, at the same time, there is a planet with a diameter of about 1,000 kilometers that can be vaguely felt in subspace. This little light and shadow mosquito is naturally Edisha. At the moment, Edisha looks like a real person, showing a lot of emotions. In Jia Yan's eyes, it has long been separated from the ordinary intelligent brain, and it seems that under Jia Yan's deliberate guidance, it is indeed different from ordinary intelligent brains. It considers itself to be a unique life with wisdom, so in it has unique advantages in terms of feeling emotions. At this time, its performance made others extremely surprised. It seemed like a real life, crying and rushing into the arms of the giant mosquito creature. Wow, Master, I'm so scared. I thought I was dead this time, but I didn't expect Master to come to save me. By the way, Master, how did you save Edisha? Did you give them anything good? Exchange ours? If it's too expensive, then don't use it, it doesn't matter if Edisha dies. While Edisha was crying, she also said something that was more worrying about Jia Yan. Just crying, it stared blankly, because from the analysis of the data, it seemed that the current size of its owner was much larger than the impression. Master, you seem to have grown bigger, right? It asked. For a light and shadow mosquito that is a few centimeters in size, it looks like a real small mosquito. For a creature that is 30 kilometers in size, it looks almost the same as a creature that is 50 kilometers in size. It is like being indistinguishable from ants. No matter how big humans and elephants are, they are both giants. But it is an intelligent brain after all. While rubbing hands with Jia Yan, its own analysis mechanism appeared, and then it made it understand, as if its master had become much bigger. Haha, we meet again, the nagging little guy. Indeed, your master, I, have changed and become stronger. Jia Yan smiled, rather dotingly, and looked at the little guy. It is not a physical creature, but in fact, Jia Yan regards it as a physical creature. If there is a chance, he will be willing to give this little guy a chance to truly achieve life, and looking at the current situation, even if there is no body, compared with ordinary real life, there will not be much difference. Except in some cases, it is a bit like a brain. At other times, it is not much different from a young life form. Therefore, he recognized little Edisha from the bottom of his heart and treated her like a family member. Could it be, could it be? A kind of shock flashed in Edisha's eyes. But he made a guess that made Jia Yan speechless. Could it be that, Master, you are already a strong man at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, and then you made friends with a senior domain lord who knows them, and you have made peace? The little Mosquito was pleasantly surprised, thinking that Jia Yan would be very powerful if he could meet and befriend a territory lord. Okay. After all, it is a smart brain. Its logical analysis library does not give much possibility that Jia Yan has cultivated to the domain master, so it will not say or even think about this possibility because the probability is not high. And I really said it, if not, then Jia Yang would be embarrassed. As a little licking dog's Hineo, it will not embarrass its owner. Is this all you pursue? Jia Yan smiled angrily. However, he also understood that if he asked for a wise brain, it would be too much to think too big. This kind of imaginary thing has almost nothing to do with the brain. Even if Edisha has done a good job, it is almost too big for a brain to dare to think about becoming a real life. After a breakthrough, it is simply impossible for it to have the same thinking and imagination capabilities as ordinary people. Your Excellencies Hineo, we don't know each other until we fight. Please forgive me. Suddenly, before Jia Yan could reveal the answer to the mystery in person, the three domain masters of Baichanao's forces on the side flew forward and intervened. Ah! I'm sorry, please stop hitting people. My master is very good, and so am I won't do any harm to you. You have to let us go. Edisha was about to cry, and she quickly stood in front of Jia Yan. At the same time, there was a loud rumble on her side, and a huge hole opened, revealing a huge planet. Saying the most cowardly words, Edisha was determined to die at this moment. It revealed the Edisha star, and then the artillery fire on it was prepared. Some of them, even the Galaxy Elementary Order, the possible threat is the backup of positive and negative explosives that Jia Yan left behind. Of course, for the Domain Lord level, it has no effect at all. This is why, when she was captured, Edisha did not think about escaping and resisting, because it had been analyzed by the brain's program. Knowing that it is definitely impossible for him to succeed. But the situation is different now. Master Jia Yan is also with it, and its mission has changed. As long as it can cover Master Jia Yan's escape, it doesn't matter if it dies. Of course, this is just a backup plan. Master Jia Yan must have some leverage if he can let the three major domain masters in front of him hand over himself without incident. Edisha could only hope for this. Lords Hineo, and we will naturally not take action. If you and the master of your family want to leave, you can leave anytime and anywhere. The eldest brother of the Northern Morning Rain Force, Bei, felt a burst of curse in his heart. He wanted to say that he wished that Jia Yan, the suspected extremely powerful domain lord, would leave their Northern Morning Rain Force as soon as possible. If they wanted to leave, they would definitely say goodbye. Are you afraid that your master won't be able to leave? Or is it that this Hineo has actually been separated from its owner for too long, and has no idea what his owner's actual strength is? Thinking of this strong man felt that this matter should still be a trap. After all, if Jia Yan really values the planet in front of him, then he shouldn't give the impression that the master of the brain in charge of the planet is weak. It shows that Jia Yan may really have other purposes. The three domain masters are all human beings. When they saw the conversation between Jia Yan and Hineo, they suddenly thought of this. Then they all had a sudden thought in their hearts and looked at each other, and each of them became solemn. Wow. Can we go? Master, Master, then, let's go quickly, Editha's star has been warmed up for you. After Edisha heard this, she almost dragged Jia Yan to leave quickly. After all, it was too unsafe here. The three major creatures around her looked so tall. The most important thing was that it was in the Edisha star. Through the internet, I know the information of these three people. They are all domain masters. If one territory lord, its owner Jia Yan, once escaped pursuit with it, but the three territory lords were still territory lords in the black hole area, and Edisha thought it was impossible to escape. Although it seems that the master has become a little stronger after so many years in the North Star, it is still far behind the average achievement time data of the majority of territory lords, so he will definitely not be a territory lord. Then if you are not a territory lord, it would be too dangerous to be surrounded by the three territory lords. Just go if you can. The little mosquitoes that Editha transformed into were flying around in front of Jia Yan's eyes, and they frequently winked at Jia Yan like ordinary creatures, telling him to seize the opportunity to escape. God knows when these domain lords would change their faces. Unfortunately, Jia Yan was unmoved. Moreover, not only was he unmoved, he even looked at the three domain lords calmly, making them feel frightened. After all, in the eyes of these three domain lords, the person in front of them is not a weak person, but a being who can fight calmly under the full force of their three domain lords. Moreover, he is also an existence with subdimensional talent. If he really wants to fight with when they fight, no matter how powerful the three of them are together, they may not be able to keep him. If they provoke such a being, in the future, the three domain masters will not dare to separate when they go out, otherwise they will be defeated by Zudge. It's impossible to go out together forever, so they don't dare to offend Jia Yan at all. You three, want me to leave? Haha, look, how scared I am by you, a good smart guy. Do you think this account needs to be settled? Master, master. When Edisha heard what Jia Yan said, her eyes turned white with fright, and she almost memorized it in one breath. The master said this to cause trouble. But with our strength, do we dare to cause trouble? No matter what the master has, if these three domain lords really want to kill the master and himself on the spot, we will die. Even if the master has a great master to back him up, he will help kill the three territory lord, but we are still dead. Why did the master become stupid after practicing in the North Star? Could it be that the North Star not only compresses the character's body, but also suppresses the IQ of the brain? Edisha quickly and efficiently came to the conclusion that Jia Yan might have become a little stupid through her intelligent brain's analytical ability. But reaching this conclusion cannot change the current results. It can only stand up resolutely. The worst result caused by the master requires you to stand up and solve it for the master. Anyway, I have already decided before that I will protect the master even if I die. With a sudden sound, Edisha flew in front of Jia Yan, and then showed an extremely fierce expression. If you want to attack my master, I will let the planet open fire. Don't underestimate the master's planet. Although it cannot hurt you, it can still blow up your base camp into a ball. If you are wise, let it go. Us. Before Edisha could finish speaking, the other three domain lords quickly shook their heads. Your Excellency Jia Yan, and this Excellency's Hineo, we don't dare to take action. For letting you two be frightened and running around for so long, we feel that we should indeed give compensation. Oh no, it is compensation, you two. You see how about this, let us discuss it for a while, you guys wait here. The three major domain lords were like cocks that were defeated in a fight, two of them, not even daring to take a breath. Such cowardly words made Edisha, who was ready to die generously, stare blankly as if she had heard something impossible. What? Territory lord, is he so easy to talk to and so easy to be frightened? Or maybe the master has a very powerful backer. Is he a powerful territory lord who can threaten the three major territory lords? Or is he a senior domain lord who is rumored to be more powerful than ordinary domain lords here? If there is such an existence as a backer, presumably these three people really dare not take action. But Adisha only dared to think about it. How could a senior territory lord, such a terrifying existence, be the backer of his master, unless the master sold his life to others? Master, this is... Adisha turned back and looked at her master in confusion. Haha, Adisha, don't you understand? Jia Yan discovered that his little Hineo was really silly and cute. In the universe, strength is valued. After following me for so long, there is only one explanation for this situation. Guess again. Jia Yan said with a smile. Adisha seemed to suddenly remember something, and then looked at Jia Yan, her master, with disbelief. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2358. At this time, Jia Yan seemed to have become more stalwart than ever in the eyes of Adisha. Could it be? Master, you. Adisha was so excited that she looked at Jia Yan and expressed surprise. Jia Yan smiled and nodded, feeling that this little Hineo was finally a little smarter. Have you, Master, accepted a powerful being as your adoptive father? Puff. Adisha's speech made Jia Yan suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, becoming the first senior domain lord in the world to die because of a cold joke. What a shame. Adisha, I haven't seen you for a while, and I noticed that your skin is itchy. Do you want me to activate the punishment program of Ji now to let you feel the pain? Jia Yan gritted his teeth angrily. This stupid brain, why is it that the calculation is not too slow, but it just can't figure out the possibility that I am already a powerful domain master? He's a patron and a foster father. If I don't explain it clearly, I'm afraid you'll all come up with a book about starting a business, right? No, Master, Adisha knows she was wrong. Humph, it's good to know that you are wrong. Listen, your master is not the kind of person who needs a backer and a foster father. I have been promoted to the domain lord, do you understand? Impossible. Master, Adisha strongly suspects that you are bragging, because according to the information Adisha possesses, the proportion of creatures that have reached the level of domain lord from the middle level of the galaxy in 3 or 4 years, completely lower than 0.000000000000. How big are you, Ling? Your master is standing right here. No matter how big you are, Ling, I am also the domain master. How is it possible? Adisha feels that her brain is going to collapse. What should the master do? Love, Adisha's program is going to go wrong. Stop playing tricks, hey, what's going on? The smart brain hardware storage building on the planet is really emitting white smoke. Hey, Aditha. It was quite funny that Adisha's brain was smoking, but it was not funny at all when it was seen by the 3 major domain lords. They witnessed the whole process and knew that this smart brain had the same owner and chatted like a family member. But now, this smart brain suddenly went down in their home in the starry sky. Speaking of which, it was all their fault. It doesn't sound like it's their responsibility, but if they hadn't kidnapped this brain, why would people be so excited for no reason, and then smoke? Obviously, the territory lord named Jia Yan would not let them off easily even if he felt that their responsibilities were not big. This is also true. When she was at a loss, let Adisha stop thinking so much. When she has time in the future, she will talk about it carefully. Her magnificent promotion process in the North Star made Adisha finally stop twitching like a pendulum. Finally, Jia Yan turned his slightly unhappy eyes to these 3 domain lords. The 3 of them didn't make any real moves just now. I'm afraid they still don't understand that their own power can completely crush them, right? But it doesn't matter. If the subsequent compensation and the rebuilding of Edish's key brain components cannot be negotiated, Jia Yan doesn't mind letting them see clearly what kind of domain lord level powerhouse he is. Although he calmed down, he still acted like a moron, mumbling and repeating, "The master is the domain lord, Edisha is wrong, the intelligence is wrong, the program is wrong, the sky is wrong, zzzi." Edisha, Jia Yan flew towards the three major domain lords. He just flew in front of the three major domain lords in such a grand manner, with a cold and ruthless expression. At this moment, the three Northern Chennai Forces domain masters, who obviously still had some confidence in the three of them joining forces, were all together, and their expressions changed slightly. Because they seemed to feel that this strange territory lord, who had fought equally with the three of them before, had a strange sense of power overflowing from him. It seemed that if they had a bad attitude, it will rekindle the war. Yes, when Jia Yan reached this moment, he felt a hint of anger, and what arose was naturally the power of the senior domain master, who was a positive and negative force. "Three of you, this incident happened because of you. You are not thinking of not compensating for the loss of my spirit and my brain, right?" Jia Yan asked calmly. The expressions of the three domain masters were extremely embarrassed. "Dear, your mental loss and the loss of your brain becoming stupid are losses. Our force has become a mess, and we ourselves have been a little injured. Doesn't this count as a loss?" The faces of the three of them were a little ugly, because they were definitely being bullied. But the situation is stronger than the people. This domain lord level strongman was able to fight against the three of them just now, and with such terrifying power rising immediately, it seems that his combat effectiveness will increase again. Even if they think that they, the three great domain masters, have not used their special skills together, they are unwilling to try it, because even if they use it, this powerful man may have his own special skills and strength that he has not yet revealed. The situation is almost the same as the previous battle. Even if they can drive away this domain lord, the entire force will be harassed by such a talented person in the future. This is the annoying thing about a subdimensional being. Even if you can defeat him, it is difficult to kill him, or even escape, because he can run faster than you. Even if he cannot defeat you, he will follow you. If you follow him, you have no effect. People come to your influence to beat your friends. If you don't return to your influence, they will destroy your influence. Therefore, even a senior domain lord is not willing to provoke a domain lord level subspace existence. Such an existence can at least reach the 9th dimensional subspace. It is true that a senior domain lord can easily attack the 9th subspace, but in the 9th subspace, the attack power will become weaker, and a domain lord in the subspace cannot be killed at all. Dogskin plaster, are you afraid of it? Anyway, these three domain lords were afraid, so. Your Excellency, the compensation request you mentioned is something we can discuss. How about we all sit down and have a good discussion? You can tell us whatever you think. We are really wrong about this matter. How about we all sit down and have a good discussion? You need to calm down first. If you are angry, your body is not good for you. We will do everything we can to help Mr. Zhinao return to his normal state. What do you think? Bidang stood up first, and then gave in to Jia Yan. His attitude was completely different from before. Everything in the universe is based on strength. If Jia Yan's strength is not enough, even if he becomes a territory lord but is just an ordinary territory lord, the matter will be completely different. Haha, you guys are very sensible, since your attitude is so good, forget it, otherwise I would like you to see what the consequences will be if you offend me. Jia Yan continued to sneer. It wasn't that he didn't want to take action. After all, these three guys had captured Edis's star and had traveled a long distance. He had just taken the lives of three of them to establish his power. As soon as he walked out of Biostar, he was going to use this kind of war as a way to make a name for yourself and determine your strength in the starry sky. But he felt that he was still kind, so he chose not to take action. Well, that's just an appearance. The actual reason is that not long after Jia Yan was promoted, he fought several battles. If he doesn't learn more about it, it might affect his future domain lord level strength. Some of his insights are lost. But it was really lost, so he didn't want to waste that energy. Another point is that Adisha is really burned out and requires powerful technology to repair it. Jia Yan goes to find other powerful forces himself. If he needs money or something, it is difficult to find and it is very troublesome. Now that these three guys have come forward, we can just let them do the work. Of course, if they don't do anything good, Jia Yan doesn't mind bringing the three major domain lords to the flag and really killing them. Anyway, it's not like he has never killed domain lords. He even killed so many in the North Star before. There is no mental burden. Since you are so sincere, let's discuss arrangements quickly. I will go to my planet to rest first. I hope you won't do anything stupid, because you will regret it. Jia Yan said calmly, and then flew to the star Edisha, where half of the planet's body was exposed. On the way, he did not forget to use the power of brain waves to drag the little Edisha, who had turned into a mosquito of light and shadow, back to the planet. Huh? Master, what did I just do? Why is the backup chip in the planet being used? It's so slow. I feel like I've stopped thinking. You seem to have said something very outrageous, and I've forgotten it. Edisha suddenly came back to her senses from her confusion. It's nothing. You have a good rest. Those three domain masters will not come to attack us now. Wow. Wow. That's awesome, Master. The foster father you recognize is so awesome. Jia Yan felt that his steps as he flew into the planet staggered, almost causing a big hole in the Aditha star. He looked at the little light and shadow mosquitoes following him with an unkind look, feeling that he wanted to shut this little guy's mouth. Why did he have to mention his adoptive father when he had nothing to do? What's more, he had forgotten what happened just now. Jia Yan felt that it was causing trouble on purpose. Of course, the building was smoking. Jia Yan didn't dare to touch Edissa. If he burned down the memory and the backup, he would lose this relative forever, and Jia Yan would have no place to cry. Go cry. So he endured it, and waited until Edisha was repaired in the future and made more copies of the Assistant Intelligence building to ensure its safety before he would cause trouble for it again. Jia Yan doesn't say that he is the domain lord anymore. In short, this little guy will understand after looking at it. So he flew to his own home on the planet Edissa. The home is more than 100 kilometers wide. It was originally just one room. Now that we entered it, it was a bit small, but fortunately it was still relatively warm. Jia Yan just flew out of the North Star and instantly found the feeling. I finally rested. I have a good understanding of the power of the territory lord level, and then let them find a way to see if they can help me transform Edisha star. Otherwise, such a house is not worthy of my territory lord level status. Jia Yan calmly returned to his house, crawled down, and practiced and comprehended. The loss of energy is not very big, because his promotion power has not been exhausted yet, which means that he has not yet reached his true body power, so he is not tired. But these powers are very important. If they are not understood and dissipated, many people's understanding of the new level will be biased, so Jia Yan cannot wait. Buzz buzz. Not long after, energy fluctuations reverberated in the Edisha star that sank into the first level of space again. The little light and shadow mosquito seemed to have forgotten the memory that was about to be burned before, and flew happily around the planet. This planet has been peaceful for several years. It has been waiting for Jia Yan in the starry sky. After waiting for so long, it finally welcomed the return of its master. For it, this is an extremely happy thing. However, it has been thinking about why it had forgotten a memory before. It seemed so terrifying that it did not dare to recall it. It seemed that even recalling it would cause permanent harm to it. The master went into seclusion as soon as he came back. There were still such big fluctuations, and he kept taking things out from the subspace. It was so funny. He was not a domain lord. He made such a big fluctuation to scare those three people outside. A domain master? I didn't expect that the master would also use the trick of pretending to be a tiger's power. Editha felt like she got to know the master again. Oh, maybe it's the tact and sophistication that the master has learned in the past few years in Biostar? He actually knows how to use this trick. It seems that they are right. Society is really a big dying vat, and it will teach you many things. The little light and shadow mosquito side. It is simulating the thinking of living things. Boom. Just as he said this, another shockwave shot up into the sky from Jia Yan's home of cultivation, the house, causing the little light and shadow mosquitoes to stagger around. Of course, this is just a virtual projection. It's easy to avoid being blown away, but that's all for fun. Wow, W is so powerful. You have to use all your strength to release the power of brain waves. Master is a bit wasting his strength. Alas, I don't know if I should persuade him. If so, oh, maybe he will be angry with me. The master loves to show off. Editha was flying around in a daze, but she was not just playing. At the same time, she was arranging the defense and combat weapons of Star Editha in response to the external situation. It feels that there are three domain masters outside. If they want to attack Edisha, they must stand up. Even if they die, they must let their master escape. To it, its own life is really nothing compared to the life of its master. So it will work hard to tide over this difficulty for its owner. Anyway, it feels like the owner is facing a lot of difficulties this time, and it will be difficult for Edisha to get through this matter. It was very dangerous to be surrounded by the three domain masters, but the master refused to listen to me and sneak away secretly. Do you want them to compensate? I really don't know what the master is thinking. Even if there is a big shot behind him, he can't do this. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2359. Perhaps, the master has met a senior domain lord? Wow, where is the senior domain lord? I have never met the master. I don't know what kind of style he is like, whether he is powerful or not. In my information, there is a senior domain lord. The territory lord has a very terrifying description. Editha thought about the senior domain master again and couldn't help but sigh. Edisha and Jia Yan both entered a state of waiting. However, the Bachanaya forces in the outside world will not regain peace because of their pause. On the contrary, it became more noisy. Those who were killed or injured in the battle between Jia Yan and the three major domain lords began to make trouble one after another. There were also many people in the faction who did not believe in the power of the family and were ready to secretly escape and leave the faction. Anyway, in the black hole area, it can't be said that there is a shortage of people, but it is definitely not like the outside world, which treats all life as trivial. At least here, ordinary creatures can find some jobs that only intelligent life can do, and every force is robbing people. The strong have seen too much, and even a heaven-level and earth-level existence will not treat them. The strong have too much awe. They left whenever they wanted, but they suffered a lot from the three major domain lords, because these people were all brought in from the outside world through their hard work. These three powerful men began to comfort them, especially explaining that they had reached an agreement with the other party in the conflict, and the other party would not take action against the northern Chennai forces again, and there was also the possibility of joining forces in the future. It is not true to say that there is a possibility of joining forces, but it is impossible for Jia Yan to come forward to expose them. These words really had a slight effect. Many people knew that the powerful man who came was absolutely terrifying. Even if they had many battles against their forces due to misunderstandings, if the misunderstanding is really resolved and the two sides get back on good terms, and even help the Northern Morning Rain forces, wouldn't it mean that the Northern Morning Rain forces will have an external safeguard, thus becoming a blessing in disguise? This seemingly small force will become a blessing in disguise. Maybe become a good big force? You know, the mentality of worshipping the strong, even in this black hole area, definitely exists, and it is deep-rooted. Ordinary creatures that don't seem to be interested in the strong, the more they see the strong, the more they are attracted to the strong. On the road, I felt great expectation and recognition. And a creature like Jia Yan who can defeat the three domain lords, even if he has been an enemy and killed many creatures in their power, the strong is the strong, and there will still be people who worship him, not to mention the three major domains. The brothers came forward and said that Jia Yan just had a misunderstanding and might even form an alliance with their northern Chennai forces. Public opinion is still very easy to control. Although the three major domain lords knew that they could not describe Jia Yan as an alliance, they had to say it in order to appease people's hearts. Ever since, Edisha in the Edisha Star quickly collected this information from the local network, and the little light and shadow mosquito was so angry that she almost exploded. Wow, yeah, I'm so angry. You said that the master wants to form an alliance with them. Bah! The master won't form an alliance with you. What's more, my master can defeat the three major domain lords. He is not even a domain lord. How can he be like this? Why don't you just describe your enemy as a big devil because you are incompetent? That's too bad. I definitely don't want my master to ally with you. This kind of person is very bad. God knows when he will be betrayed. Edisha was obviously still very angry that she was almost captured by the U Territory Lord, so she was worried about it, thinking that the three great territory lords must have dug a hole to let their master jump, so it wouldn't let this happen. Master, those people are very bad. They actually slandered us and said that we joined forces with them. We don't join forces with them, right? Aditha flew to the big house where Jia Yan was and flew around outside the house. In a supergiant city that covers an area of hundreds of kilometers, it takes a long time for the light and shadow mosquito Aditha to fly in one circle, so after it completes one circle, it shouts the same words many times. Jia Yan, who heard that he was practicing in the house, felt that he was not tired of it. This Edisha is really speechless. Didn't I say that you can't disturb me when I'm practicing? Aren't they just three ordinary domain lords who want to use my name to win people's hearts, and they will not be with me again after I leave seclusion in the future? It's okay for them to care about you, but they want to bother me now. Fortunately, I'm not in the middle of deep cultivation, otherwise I would definitely cause trouble for you if I was cut off from the key cultivation. Jia Yan was speechless inside the house. Aren't the three major domain lords just trying to cause trouble, and they are like defeated generals, do they need to worry? But think about it, there is already something wrong with Edisha's head. If she doesn't respond properly, her brain may be burned out again after a while, and the spare computer room will also be burned down, and it will really be gone. Jia Yan he didn't dare to joke about it, so he had to leave. Edisha, don't worry about what these three guys want to do. Just pretend to be more powerful when you go out. Didn't you think you were the master of power in the game Starfield? You were so powerful then, so pretend to be now. That way, do you understand? Game Starry Sky? Ah, I remembered it. There is indeed such a thing. Why do I seem to have forgotten it? The spare computer room is so bad that my memory is blurred. The master is planning to let me find that kind of thing again. Do you feel it? Okay. Aditya happily made a half circle in the air, then rose into the sky and turned into a mosquito about 50 kilometers in size. At first glance, it really looks like Jiayan, except that its light and shadow incarnation has a halo, and its color is luminous black. If you look closely, there are still differences. That's right, just use this figure to pretend to them. We can talk about anything. I will just practice. If it's nothing important, don't disturb me. Jiayan didn't care how hard it was. Anyway, even if Edisha signed some bad treaty on his behalf, no one would take seriously what Hineo signed. He had to make his own decision in the future, so he just let it go. Make trouble. Hello. With a roar, a gap opened in the sky, and huge mosquitoes of light and shadow flew out of the sky. Huh? Your Excellency Jiayan? No, are you that, Your Excellency's Hineo? The three major domain lords were still dealing with the issues of casualties and pensions from the outside world today. When they were so worried, they saw such a light and shadow mosquito flying out of the subspace, and their expressions suddenly became weird. They all know that this light and shadow mosquito is the transformation of the previous light and shadow mosquito with a few centimeters of wisdom. The size has changed, but the overall appearance remains the same. Has the owner of the cowhide become so swollen and transformed into such a big figure? As expected, he has the brains and courage of a strong man. Haha, it's me. I'm a bit similar to my master, right? This time I'm here on behalf of my master to ask you, why did you lie and say that my master is willing to cooperate with you? Edisha cheered up and pretended that she had a strong trump card. Otherwise, she felt that if someone saw through her tricks and didn't know who the backer behind her master was, they might take action against her master. Well, Your Excellency's Hineo, we are helpless. Come, let's go to the planet to talk in detail. The three domain masters looked at each other, and then reluctantly asked Edisha to talk to them in detail. Although they don't like his Hineo or anything like that, the problem is that the backer behind this Hineo is someone they don't want to mess with. Not long after, Edisha arrived with them at the Baikonur headquarters planet and started negotiating with them. Edisha would naturally say that it could fully represent its owner. Anyway, Jiayan did give it authorization. Even Edisha Yemen is clear and knows that if she fails to accomplish something or signs some bad terms, the worst possible outcome is that the owner will deny it. As for why Edisha dared to be so careless and follow a group of domain lords to the planet, this is their home base. This problem is easy to understand, because what Aditya comes is just a piece of light and shadow, which will not harm it at all. At most, it will damage the flying projectors that maintain the light and shadow. That's right, we are also doing it for people's livelihood. Your master, Mr. Jiayan, he treats our northern morning rain planet. Stop it, it's not my master who caused the destruction, it's you who want to attack my master. Otherwise, the one behind my master, no, how could my master attack you? Edisha interrupted the other party with just one sentence, and said seemingly coldly. However, it almost let it slip, saying that the master defeated these three domain lords because of the support of the backer behind him. That's right, even now, it still doesn't think that Jiayan has the ability to confront the three major domain lords head-on. Because it is so illogical. It is strange enough that a person who has just gone to the North Star in less than 4 or 5 years can go from the peak of the middle level of the galaxy to the territory lord in one breath. What's more, it takes him one breath. Become able to deal with three domain masters? From a probability perspective, it's simply impossible. So Edisha just accepted what she heard, but no matter who said it, even if they saw the fighting video on the internet, they all thought that Jiayan had a powerful being behind him to help him fight. But in this way, it becomes even more a fox pretends to be a tiger's power. Cheer yourself up. Human beings have a saying, if you can't even deceive yourself, how can you deceive others? Therefore, Its attitude looks like a brain supported by a powerful master, extremely bossy and arrogant. Yes, it was not your master who caused the destruction. It was us who provoked you first and captured you. The three domain masters really took advantage of this move. They originally felt that they did not have an advantage when facing Jia Yan, but now his family's Ji Now was also the only victim of the enemy in this accident. There is no way they would dare to say anything harsh again. That's right. My master sent me here this time. In addition to discussing your compensation matters with you, the other point is that you actually used my master's name to engage in strategies to stabilize people's hearts. This is also true of my master. I'm very unhappy. Tell me, what should I do? Adisha asked calmly. This, Masters Hineo, we actually want to do this. If you are willing, we can really join forces and your master will join our forces in some way. In this way, you can also earn our gains. Of course, we dare not skip the compensation that should have been given. What do you think? The territory lord named Bei hesitated for a while. After looking at the two brothers beside him, he gritted his teeth and said the three brothers had discussed the matter before. That's right, they actually took Jia Yan's idea and planned to let Jia Yan partner with them to run the Northern Morning Rain Force. Ever been an enemy? What happened to once being enemies? Were the three brothers fighting for life and death together at the beginning, but they turned into such a good life and death brotherhood? Why is it okay to accept two brothers, but not another new brother? What's more, the strength of this new brother is still such a terrifying existence. How can they not be unwilling? Maybe he will be a big leg in the future. Of course, the premise of all this is that the other party is willing to accept the three brothers and the Northern Morning Rain Force, which is not too big. There is one thing. If this strong man named Jia Yan is really willing to join them, wouldn't the name Baichanayu be inappropriate? Should he be called Jia Baichanayu or Yan Bei Morning Rain? They said that they thought too much, and whether the strong man would agree to it or not was another matter. Oh, so you have the idea of asking my master to join and be a thug for your force? Haha, what a beautiful idea. I won't let my master agree. There is no way to. Lady Edisha is a loyal intellectual, and my master is not that stupid, so please accept this little thought. Edisha almost sneered and walked away. Of course, it would not do this. Anyway, the owner wanted it to come out and show off, and then let Jia Yan himself have time and energy to practice in the subspace. Naturally, I want to scare others outside, and then go back triumphantly. AI, Lord Edisha, right? Don't refuse in a hurry. Think about it, this is good for you, and we actually have no intention of forcing Lord Jia Yan to stay. After we have been waiting for a long time, he is still come and go as you please, even if it's just to help us get through this turbulent period, we will faithfully provide you with the income sharing during this period. Think about it, this is a good deal, not to mention, we have to spend time preparing for the smart brain chip, right? This time comes and goes, and it is not a short time. Why not take advantage of this time to make some external income? Even if you ask us to improve your chip level, it can be done, but all this takes time. Instead of wasting this time, it is better to make full use of it. Think about it, is this the truth? That Chen universe was worthy of being a big-headed territory lord. After a light flashed on his bald forehead for a while, he came up with such a good way to comfort him. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2360. It seems to make sense. Lady Edisha, let me think about it. Edisha suddenly became confused again. After all, he was using a backup brain. The calculation speed and optimization processing were not that fast, and his brain was not very bright. After thinking about it for a long time, Edisha said with a straight look on her face, based on my loyalty to my master, I wouldn't have been willing to do it, but after thinking about it, what you said does make sense. In addition, I think, you can give me my newly installed chips must not be made from junk, and the core components must be of the latest generation. If you agree with this, I will find a way to persuade my owner to sign the contract now. Ah. Of course we will find a way. Haha, Lady Edisha is quick to talk. Come on, the contract is here. You can use your smart brain program to sign it. The special signature mark cannot be faked. Okay, I'll sign, but don't trick me, otherwise I will be scolded by my master, and he won't admit it. You know, I'm just a wise man. No, no. When Jia Yan was in the subspace, he never thought that Edisha would become the master of the game just because of his words. She was very generous and took advantage of her trust to go out and sign the document. But from Edisha's point of view, it is actually worried, because it thinks that Jia Yan must be so awesome because there are people behind him, but it is not his own strength, and he will not follow these northern. If people from the Chennai forces make an agreement or something, there will definitely be trouble, and there may be danger in the future. So it signed the papers and played the peace game. Isn't it the way to balance the various forces in the game Starry Sky? Aditya did it? Of course, if Jia Yan knew what Edisha was doing and was playing games, he probably wouldn't think there was anything wrong. After all, Aditya is a patient. Why would she lose her temper with a patient? Besides, if you have the strength and let your brain do things, what's wrong? It loves to play, can I let them play? I have strength. Feeling that after becoming a combat-type domain master, Jia Yan suddenly let go too much and expanded a lot even in the black hole area, he dared to do such unscrupulous things. But that's right. He is a fighting territory lord equivalent to a senior territory lord, and his strength will become stronger and stronger in the future. Even in the black hole area, he can escape as long as he does not provoke too terrifying existence. What's even more frightening is that he is also a combat-type domain master with subspace talent, even a strong subspace talent who has experienced in the North Star. This can no longer be described as terrifying, but rather helpless. The physical body can enter the 10th level. This is a depth that even a senior domain lord cannot easily attack. Even the legendary mid-level existence of the galaxy will be very troublesome. As long as Jia Yan knows in advance that an intermediate domain lord is coming to trouble him. Fled into the subspace first, and the distance was far enough that even the middle-level domain lord would look at him and watch him escape. As for the middle-level domain lords, they are no longer ordinary domain lords. They may be the top forces in the black hole area. Those who can appear are the ones who generally do not take action. They are called the mainstays and are among the super powerful forces. The ancestor, the king of power. After all, the black hole area is different from the 4 giant stars in the North Superstar. The total number of strong people in the outside world is not that many, and once they take action, it is not like the creatures in the North Superstar. Get their information in advance. As for the stronger high-level top-level domain lords, and even the high-level powers of the galaxy that are more terrifying than the domain lords, they are almost illusory existences. The high-level and top-level domain lords are at least better. Here there must still be some top forces in the black hole area, but the high-level ones in the galaxy? That is the existence of the thread that may exist among the 4 superstars, as well as the kind of thread that Jia Yan saw when he was promoted, which will only appear in extremely unique moments, and will really not be encountered under other circumstances. So Jia Yan is really confident and doesn't need to be afraid of causing trouble. I used so many items in one breath. I didn't expect these things to get bigger after leaving the North Star. I almost fell out of the subspace several times before. I don't know how long later, Jia Yan woke up on the Edisha star in the subspace, exhaling a long breath. This time, A lot of items brought from the North Star were used to stabilize the level after promotion. However, it is also such a stable state that Jia Yan's previously stable state over time for a period of time has become precariously calm. If it exceeds a period of time, it may be difficult to calm down. In other words, no matter how late it is, his state will be gone. It is difficult to stabilize. That's it. He used too much force before and wasted a lot of time, so he can't improve his strength quickly and needs to continue to stabilize it. That is to say, for a period of time, he can no longer think about improving his strength. The problem is to slowly and steadily stabilize it. Which domain lord level powerhouse would increase his strength so quickly? For other domain lords, every step forward in strength is measured in years. Even some speculations on strength improvement will simply go in the wrong direction. It is normal for years or even decades of hard work to be wasted, so I am a little bit slowing down your strength is not an unacceptable issue. Jia Yan still takes this relatively lightly. He has passed the threshold of domain master in 3 or 4 years, and he needs to calm down, otherwise his strength will increase too quickly, which may not be a good thing for future development. But even if I can't develop my brainwave power, I can still study deep things, such as the positive and negative forces of yin and yang, and more unique operating methods in my subspace, plus a large number of advantageous items, and there are explosives, as well as the transformation of positive and negative matter into magic weapons, etc. If these are thoroughly studied, even if it is just one aspect, it will be of great help to the strength. The reason why Jia Yan can become a combat-type domain master is not because of how terrible his brainwave power talent is. In fact, even from the beginning until now, Jia Yan has never said that his brainwave power talent is superior to others. At least he still knows this, his brainwave power talent is not much better than ordinary genius creatures. But his strength lies in external strength supplements such as physical perfection, subspace, yin and yang dao, etc. If we put aside these helpful powers, he might not be able to reach the threshold of a combat-type domain master at all. Puff. Standing up from home, Jia Yan looked at the news about his brain on the Edisha Star. Huh? Did this guy Adita do so many things? Haha, Zinao is quite playful, so just let it go if you want to. Jia Yan saw it, and Edisha reported that it had made a deal with the Northern Morning Rain Force, and was then entertained by the other party. In short, the life form of the Northern Morning Rain Force in the outside world did not matter to it and Jia Yan, all turned into a friendly attitude, and welcomed him wholeheartedly. Jia Yan couldn't laugh or cry, but he didn't care. After all, Edisha didn't use the kind of communication that could interrupt his practice, which showed that the incident was not too urgent. Since it was not that serious, just let it go. Jia Yan slowly walked out of the subspace, and then saw a small mosquito of light and shadow whirling in front of him inside the subspace. Master, are you awake? Ha ha ha, Edisha was just chatting with the territory lords of the Northern Morning Rain Force. They called me brothers. I lied to them, Master, that you were a very powerful territory lord, and they all believed it. Ha 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 ha, I also said that I am very smart, and they believed it, and they will help me become a real life form in the future. Aditha flew around innocently, and in a few words, she explained clearly what happened during Jia Yan's retreat. Haha, Aditha is so powerful. By the way, the Northern Morning Rain Forces shouldn't have any bad intentions, right? If there is a trap or something, we'd better make plans first. Jia Yan smiled and asked relatively vigilantly. No, they have no foreign aid at all. They seem to be living a very hard life. In this area, they are basically a middle and lower class force. They lost a bit in the last war. He, Master, they thought you were the real domain owners want to cooperate with us. I deceived them into giving them a lot of resources and property, but they dare not refuse to give it. When are we leaving? As long as we leave, Even if they find out that we are lying to them, they will not be able to find us. It's our turn. Adisha seemed to be asking for credit, telling Jia Yan how she had deceived the three domain lords, and then wanted Jia Yan to leave here quickly. Anyway, from its point of view, it has always been believed that Jia Yan is lying. It is impossible for him to have the strength of a domain lord, let alone the strength to deal with the three major domain lords. From a computer point of view, it is impossible for such a thing to happen. Okay. So it feels that it has achieved its goal anyway and has taken a lot of supplies from the other party, so it might as well just run away. Little guy, we are not in a hurry to leave. I originally wanted to stay in the black hole area for a while to see the details here, so instead of leaving and looking for other places, it is better to stay here. By the way, your brain repair okay? Jia Yan felt that it would be troublesome to explain to Edisha. If her brain burned out again, it would be a big problem. Editha was depressed for a moment, feeling that her plan had been denied by her master. According to her, leaving was the safest thing. It said gloomily, "Master, half of my smart brain has been repaired. The computing accessories they shipped are okay, much better than what I had before, but because I won't let them go to Editha, so it's slower for me to do the repairs myself. Thank you for your hard work, you happen to need some time too, so let's wait for a while." Jia Yan smiled and used this as an excuse. Edisha's brain hadn't been repaired yet, so he suppressed the truth that he wanted to say out. After all, he said it. What if Edisha burned out her brain again? The backup brain was not as good as the self-brain. Even if the data was burned, it would not be recovered, which meant that Edisha was gone. He did not dare to gamble. Let's wait until the materials are better and the brain is ready. Then Edisha won't be so prone to hearing the news and can't accept it, and then problems will arise, right? Well, then, I'll go and hold them back a little longer. No, I will go out and communicate with them in person. You just need to stay in Edisha and protect yourself with all your strength. Yeah. In fact, Edisha was tired of scheming with those powerful domain masters. After all, she was actually frightened, fearing that one day she would be discovered that her master was not strong enough. And when the master went out to communicate in person, Edisha was relieved. The master was much better than herself. After Jia Yan finished communicating with Edisha, he tore apart the subspace and stepped out in one step. Boom. The normal space outside the subspace is a chaotic dark starry sky. This starry sky has long been defined as a restricted area, and it is completely empty. No living thing or ship dares to approach it. Even the powerful troops who defended this place only dared to watch from a distance, preventing the great being in this space from feeling any unpleasantness. When Jia Yan stepped out of the subspace in person, these guards had already seen the situation from a distance. A 50-kilometer-long creature suddenly appeared in the starry sky, and no one could see it. So they immediately sent a message back to their home planet. Of course Jia Yan knew this, but it was just a matter of course that he expected it, so he didn't try to stop it. The normal starry sky, the normal size, it feels, I'm not used to it, it's 50 kilometers away, it's so eye-catching. After Jia Yan stepped out of the subspace, he felt a burst of discomfort. In a normal space, although he enjoyed his domain lord body, it was still a little uncomfortable because it was so huge and so eye-catching. When he was in Biostar, Jia Yan could ride in ordinary vehicles and communicate with ordinary creatures. Even if he pretended to be a creature of average strength and only said that his race was special and he was big, people would believe him. But in a normal space, you are 50 kilometers away and say that you are a venerable. How can you believe it? This is the difference between the North Star and the outside world. Although the outside world can enjoy normal strength and feelings, it lacks the fun of ordinary creatures. Before Jia Yan could think about it for long, his eyes moved. On the starry planet far away in the horizon, there are three figures, shooting towards them like lightning. The territory lord exists and has various means to rush on the road, and after speeding up, it is faster than the speed of light. So he didn't wait long before he arrived in front of Jia Yan. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are finally out of seclusion. Congratulations to Your Excellency Jia Yan for your renewed strength. The three territory lords are the three major beings in the northern morning rain forces. When they came to Jia Yan one by two, they felt slightly shocked. The existence of the territory lord has the most say over the strong men of the same level, or those with similar strength. Anyway, they feel that Jia Yan seems to have become a little deeper than when he fought with them that day, and his strength seems to have changed from the original level. The rage turned into calm as water. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2361. Is this an increase in strength? The expressions of the three major domain lords changed slightly, and then they became more reserved. It would have been difficult for them to deal with such a strong person, but now if their strength had really improved, they would be even less willing to provoke him. The two territory lords, Chen and Yu, immediately admired their eldest brother Bei, because it was he who suggested enduring humiliation and being a little more tolerant to Jia Yan. Otherwise, if they didn't do that, they would be in greater trouble now. I haven't seen you for a while, but you still look like you. Jia Yan looked at the major domain lords calmly, his expression neither humble nor arrogant. Your Excellency Jia Yan is very complimentary. I wonder if your coming out of isolation this time means that our cooperation can start in the future. The Northern Territory Lord was very concerned about what Jia Yan said. Because they had previously negotiated a bunch of contracts and agreements with the so-called Ji Now who represented Jia Yan, the little light and shadow mosquito who called herself Adisha. Generally speaking, no one would believe in the value of the agreement signed by Zhinao. Even Adisha herself would not believe in herself that much. But Baikanai didn't think so. Because even if Adisha doesn't believe in herself, as long as Jia Yan really values Adisha, that's all. Actually, it was the analysis of this point by the three major domain lords of Northern Morning Rain that convinced them of the validity of the agreement signed by Adisha and them. What Adisha didn't know was how rare Jia Yan was among ordinary domain lords, who flew to the core of a big force for the sake of intelligence and fought head-on with the enemy single-handedly. In this way, for others, the probability of whether the territory lord, who values such a Ji Now so highly, is willing to recognize the agreement signed by Ji Now is still very high. Of course, they didn't actually estimate Jia Yan's strength. If they knew that Jia Yan was originally equivalent to the strength of a senior domain lord, and only came to their northern Chennai force after comparing the news on the internet, they must have I will lower Adisha's weight in signing the agreement. But none of this prevents Jia Yan from agreeing with the agreement signed by Adisha. Oh? That little guy, what agreement did you sign with you? Take it out and let me take a look. Jia Yan was calm and non-committal, just wanted to see the agreement. Adisha had actually read the agreement to him for a while just now. She was reading it again just because Jia Yan wanted to confirm whether some of the terms were as he interpreted them. The three domain masters said nothing. They projected a large virtual screen full of terms and conditions. Jia Yan didn't mind the trouble either. He just read the first clause along the way and asked questions if he didn't understand. The main thing about the three domains is actually this attitude, because everyone knows that Jia Yan is willing to read the agreement and is willing to inquire and understand the contents of the agreement, which shows that he is still a little interested in this agreement. With further interpretation and communication between the two parties, Jia Yan gradually understood what the other party's purpose was under such an agreement. Three of you, you can put away the content of the agreement. He only saw half of it and stopped looking. The three strong men on the other side were all startled. You were watching it well just now, but suddenly you stopped watching it? Could it be that, this matter is pornographic? The expressions of the three major domain masters all became ugly. But things were obviously not what the three of them thought. Jia Yan only knew what the other party wanted to do through the contents of these agreements. Three of you, just tell me honestly. Do you want me to join forces, and there are forces outside that you can't deal with? Jia Yan's conversation made the expressions of the three domain masters become even more serious. They felt that some of their own thoughts could not escape Jia Yan's insight. But it must also be the case. A real domain lord is definitely a big shot with good intelligence. It is impossible for him to be as intelligent as they were able to coax him before. These terms all stated that the two sides have become an offensive and defensive alliance, and then the Northern Morning Rain forces will provide a certain amount of money, etc. to Jia Yan. Even if Jia Yan wants to stay in the Northern Morning Rain forces, they are willing to give it to Jia Yan. Give a lot of power, even if you add a bigger brother to the three brothers. Of course, the terms are not clearly written like this, but such a huge profit transfer is clearly written. Under such circumstances, everyone would think that if the three major domain lords do not operate the good forces, they will let a strong person come in to share the profits. For what? The biggest possibility is that there are foreign enemies. Haha, Jia Yan's eyes are really like a torch, and he can see through our thoughts like a fire. Bezo, as the leader of the three domain lords, first sneered at Jia Yan. Yes, our Bachanaya forces do have some foreign enemies recently. You also know that our three domain lords are the existences of the outside world that have come to the black hole area. This is like a rootless duckweed, with no external force at all, and even other powerful people don't know much about it. Being able to achieve some influence here is only due to my good luck these years. However, when a force develops to a certain level, it will definitely damage the interests of other forces. Therefore, in recent years, our force has encountered attacks and hostility from other forces from the outside world, and we, Bachanayu, who have no backup and connections, it has become an extremely unfavorable situation and is even on the verge of collapse. When saying these words, Bachanayu blocked out all sounds from the outside world. Jia Yan knew that if this matter were heard by the people and subordinates in Baikanayu's influence, it might be a rift. Of course, there are many things that everyone can see, needless to say, so when Jia Yan made a big fuss last time, this force has been losing people. If the Bachanayu forces hadn't taken advantage of the situation and talked about communicating with Jia Yan, by turning an enemy into a friend, the Northern Chanayu forces may collapse even faster. So, you just want to find me, turn your enemy into a friend, and even use me to deal with the next enemies. Your plan is quite good. When Jia Yan spoke, there was already a hint of sullenness in his tone. Although when he saw these agreements, he knew what the other party was thinking, but if he was stupid, as easy to talk to as Edissa, and sign the agreement, then he would have to help out for the sake of face, and even provoke others. He would naturally not be happy with a more difficult enemy. Oh, by the way, in fact, Jia Yan can already guess what kind of enemies he will encounter, because in this core interest area, there are only a dozen forces fighting for it, and the strongest ones are a few senior domain masters. So when he was angry, most of it was still fake. He has killed so many senior domain lords in one battle. Although he did it using special means, he could do it again if he had to do it again. So if he is really afraid of the senior domain lord now, he can't even pretend. Come out. He was just unhappy that these three people actually wanted to plot against him. Your Excellency Jia Yan, there is no need to be angry. In fact, you and I all know very well that the so-called agreement, documents, etc. are just a piece of paper. For us strong men, there is not much at all. Binding force, just like you, if you want to give up this contract and agreement, you can just leave anytime and anywhere. Will there be any strong interstellar people who stand up for us? This is simply impossible, otherwise our power will be bullied by others. It won't be left unattended. What we want is just a verbal promise from you. Facing Bei's sincere words, Jia Yan liked hearing these words, and couldn't help but nod his head. Yes, the strong men in our galaxy, let alone the contract, even if you have such a brotherly relationship, you know everyone and know each other well. My heart, maybe I will fall out one day. Your Excellency Jia Yan, this matter is different. Please don't slander the hearts of our brothers. After hearing Jia Yan's words, the faces of the three domain masters suddenly darkened. Jia Yan was right, but the friendship between the three brothers did not allow Jia Yan to slander them like this. So they are unhappy. Haha, I was wrong. Don't worry, you three. Jia Yan smiled and thought it was a joke. Well, I won't talk about these agreements so much, let alone read them. You only need to guarantee my interests, and if you want me to take action, I have to get the bulk of the harvest from that war, so I am willing to take action. Specific matters and distribution of benefits will be discussed on a case-by-case basis. And the key point is that if I encounter a more difficult target, I have the freedom to leave at any time and anywhere, but you can't if you use this to blackmail me. Of course, you can't blackmail me either. This is good. Happy to work with. The conditions mentioned by Jia Yan, when taken together by the three domain masters, seemed to be nothing excessive. Compared with what they had originally thought, it was much better than what they had thought, that Jia Yan would open his mouth as soon as he came out of seclusion. They were immediately in disbelief. Promised again and again. This owner looks like a fool for being so easy to talk to. When the three domain lords looked at each other, they all thought that they and others had met a fool. The conditions they offered were not too serious, and they didn't even strive for benefits. They were like the kind of existence that was easy to deceive. Of course, the three of them didn't say anything, otherwise Jia Yan would find out, increase his stakes, and even turn around and leave in anger. Aren't the three of them missing a powerful foreign aid? But there is one thing that everyone knows. That's what Jia Yan said. After the battle, the distribution and signing of agreements are matters of blank clauses. They all agree. Talking about the matter, even if Jia Yan ran away in the middle of the battle, they wouldn't be able to say anything. Pyridine. Once again tearing apart the subspace, Jia Yan returned to the interior of the Edisha planet. Master, I have already thought about it. My smart brain accessories should be placed there. It is said that this thing is not big, but it is very delicate. I want to protect it, so it must be placed there. Editha flew to Jia Yan's side, pointing happily and talking about how to place her new accessories in the future. Haha, just put it there. Jia Yan nodded lovingly. In fact, a large part of the reason why Jia Yan would agree to help these three domain lords was precisely because they were preparing Edisha's main brain accessories. If you don't agree, you will probably leave this force now. I don't know where you will get those accessories in the future. Jia Yan doesn't want to look for it any longer, because looking for such accessories is also a plunder of resources. For a domain lord, it may not be a huge event, but for many forces, it is really hard to buy it. It's not easy, and it will definitely take a lot of effort. So it's better to stay here. No matter what, wait until Edis's matter is resolved before discussing whether to leave. This matter will not be told to Edisha, so that Edisha, who is only using backup hardware at this time, will burn the machine again and Jia Yan will have a headache. By the way, Edisha, I have agreed to their agreement. Recently, you will stay in the subspace with Edisha. Even if there is a battle, there is no need to go out. Just protect Edisha well. Maybe when I escape again, I can use the Edisa star. Can you do it? Jia Yan didn't want to say that he already had the ability to move alone in the 10-dimensional space. He just mentioned to Edisha that he would use the Edisha star when he escaped next time, which could be regarded as a gift to Edisha. Sha found something to do so that it wouldn't have to run around outside again. If she saw Jia Yan fighting with Domain Lord level strength, maybe the machine would burn out again and that would be the end of it. Okay, but in times of peace, Edisha wants to go out and brag, bah, let's promote your greatness, master, okay. Edisha had gone wild. Although she agreed to Jia Yan's request, her compound eyes still flashed with pleading. In peacetime, of course that's possible, but when it comes to fighting, you must come back. You know your current situation yourself. Just leave the fighting to me, master. I don't want to end the battle. It's okay, but I've lost you, do you understand? Master, Edisha understands. Editha was so unmoved that she burst into tears, nodded in agreement. After arranging everything and transforming the original hostility into a friendly alliance with the tense northern Chennai forces, Jia Yan didn't even have time to sigh, and he didn't even get the first benefit. On the third day at that time, I received an alert from the forces of Baikanayu. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I'm sorry to contact you so soon. Our forces have found out that there is a hostile force that is close to our own. It has been preparing to attack us recently. I wonder if Your Excellency Jia Yan has any information recently. Possibility of fighting? If it is convenient, we would like to ask Mr. Jia Yan to test his skills in this battle. To put it bluntly, the Northern Territory Lord's call this time was more about asking Jia Yan to give him a small signature letter. You enjoy many benefits of other people's influence. If you don't show some results, how can they be willing to do so? Jia Yan also understood this, but he never thought that the territory lord of the Northern Morning Rain Force was so straightforward that he had to go out to fight first without getting anything. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2362. Jia Yan thought about it calmly. Since they are a hostile force, that means they must have fought against the Northern Chennai forces before. The three Northern Chennai brothers were able to deal with them, and at least the forces were not destroyed. This shows that the strongest among them is not that strong. Thinking of these, Jia Yan became determined. He looked at the influence of the Northern Territory Lord in the communicator, calmly asked like a normal conversation. Okay, tell me, how far are you going to fight? A draw? A total annihilation of the opponent? Or are you going to lose on purpose? Well. When Jia Yan asked the above words, the Northern Territory Lord felt as if he had been hit by a bolt from the blue, and he was stunned. He felt that Jia Yan had underestimated his opponent and had any customized battle results. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you may not know that the opponent we are facing is on par with, or even slightly surpasses, our Baichanayu power, so please don't underestimate the other party. Oh, is it just about the same? I thought it was so powerful. Tell me, what kind of battle result do you want? I guarantee that I can achieve it. When Jia Yan heard from the other party that the coming enemy was not much different from Baichanayu, he became even more confident. Then, let's just win a small game. Total annihilation is not good. They have a bigger force behind them. Just win a small game so that they don't dare to invade Baichanayu again. Your Excellency Jia Yan, can it be done? Can. After Jia Yan finished chatting with the domain master, he flew out of the subspace. Editha was still busy. When she saw Jia Yan leaving, she just thought that Jia Yan was out strolling as usual. She just said hello and continued to devote herself to the work of designing her own brain building. It didn't know that this time the master went out to fight, and it was the battle with the domain lord that it was extremely worried about. Of course, for the sake of its health, Jia Yan didn't say anything. I really don't know why this little guy is so smart for no reason. It turns out that the materials used before were not good enough. Jia Yan thought that in the past, Edissa was pretty good and the materials used were good. At least, he didn't feel there were too many disadvantages. Now he knows that the Edissa that was transformed using Taeyang's technology is still inferior on his growth rate. Now it is reasonable to slightly enhance it. To save herself from having to rush to a higher level of strength in the future, Edissa would still have to smoke again and again. How scary it would be. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you are here. As soon as Jia Yan came out of the subspace, he saw the three major domain masters. Obviously, they said they had signed various agreements with Jia Yan and had a verbal commitment to the alliance in name, but in fact they did not trust Jia Yan too much. Both sides have fought, and if possible, they still want to drive Jia Yan and the others away. But Jia Yan refused to leave and waited for their compensation. They could only settle for the next best thing and form a nominal alliance with Jia Yan. Otherwise, the relationship between the two parties would be so full of gunpowder that they would not feel comfortable in their power. That's one thing, and the other thing is that the ordinary people and development creatures in the Force are living in fear, which may lead to more loss of Force personnel. Fortunately, this bold alliance has achieved good results and effects. At least for Jia Yan, he has not really adopted the idea of starting a bigger war with the people of this force. Hello, Your Excellency Jia Yan. Let's go. Jia Yandu seemed to naturally treat the three territory lords as weak. Among the three territory lords, Chen and Yu, the two territory lords, looked uncomfortable when they saw Jia Yan's attitude, but Bei, as the eldest brother, gave them a hard look and then smiled. Following Jia Yan, there was a message from the brainwave power, telling them not to have any hostility towards Jia Yan. This elder brother, after talking to Jia Yan on the phone just now, carefully thought about the meaning of Jia Yan's words, and then felt that Jia Yan seemed to have a lot of meaning in his words. First of all, Jia Yan's attitude towards the three domain masters and his calm invitation to the battle all foreshadowed that his hidden strength was stronger than he imagined. Of course, it may be that Jia Yan is not that strong and is just showing off. No matter which one, as long as Jia Yan is willing to take action, no matter whether he wins or loses, they will be able to clearly see the strength of this uninvited guest. As for Jia Yan being killed, a domain master with subspace talent is really not that easy to kill. If they could do it, they would have tried it long ago, instead of being extremely humiliated by having Jia Yan occupy them next to their power base, not daring to make a move at all. As the saying goes, how can one allow others to sleep peacefully on the side of the couch? But there is no way. Jia Yan is a strong person with subspace talent. Not to mention that they can't beat them head-on. Even if they can beat them, they really can't kill a domain master with subspace talent. You know, depending on subspace talent, depending on the strength or weakness, a domain lord creature with dimensional talent would probably be able to escape easily in the hands of a stronger person of a higher level. So they had no choice but to pretend to be cowards even if they could win. In this battle, rather than asking Jia Yan to fight, they actually wanted to take this opportunity to see what Jia Yan's strength was. The three powerful men followed Jia Yan and flew towards the outside world together. Behind them further away, batches of battleships and powerful men followed. With the territory lord in front, these battleships will definitely not be that effective, but the enemy must have a similar battle echelon, so they are also necessary. But for Jia Yan, the number of these troops behind him was much less than he imagined. 20,000 or 30,000. Are such a small number of troops the direct subordinates of the three domain lords? Too pitiful. There are many territory lords in the North Star. No matter how hard one territory lord is, he can lead an army of 10,000 to 20,000 people, and as many as 100,000. Moving further afield, such as the outer central region of the Milky Way, a territory lord can command a force, and the number of troops can reach hundreds of thousands, millions, and countless people. If you go further out and reach a weaker place, a territory lord can occupy a large star field, and then you don't know how many people there are. You can even rule countless planets and live a life not much different from that of an emperor. But in the outside world of this black hole area, there are only tens of thousands of civilian troops led by strong men. Too petty. If we cooperate, will I be like them and live guarding these tens of thousands of troops? So miserable. Jia Yan felt that if he really had any ideas for development, he would have to lay down more ground, even if he could not become the co-owner of a large star field like he did in the Orion Arm, commanding trillions or even tens of millions of people. Hundreds of millions of people, how many times bigger than this, right? Of course, he doesn't have similar ideas yet, because the resources are enough for the time being, and he will come up with a solution when they are not enough. By the way, you guys said you are from the outside world, right? To be honest, I am also from the outside world, so I still don't know much about some common sense and specialties in the black hole area. I wonder if I can ask a few people. Can you tell me the rules in this black hole area? Jia Yan suddenly thought of this topic and asked the question. The three powerful men from Beichenai were startled for a moment, and then looked at each other, seemingly confirming something. For them, a strong man like Jia Yan should not appear suddenly. They were originally very surprised about who he was, but now that they know that he is an outsider, it can be explained. As an outsider, although I don't know why he ran into such a deep black hole area before starting to contact the local strong people, but he is gifted in subspace, so it is possible to come in and run directly to such a deep place. However, why did he stay on that planet in subspace and then be picked up by his third brother? The three of them made eye contact and suddenly understood that Jia Yan should have entered the North Star to see the situation, and then wandered around the North Star for a few years. The outside intelligence controlled the planet and waited. As a result, he met his third brother. Next, the outside world in the North Superstar knew about the situation in the subspace, so there was something underneath. Although he missed the mark, he was not far off either. They guessed most of them, but they didn't guess that Jia Yan went to the North Star to be promoted to Territory Lord, and he succeeded. What's even more exaggerated is that a few years later, when the North Star appears, he will be a senior-level domain master. No one would guess this, but it does not prevent them from knowing that Jia Yan is a tough and strong man. But he is a strong man who is not very familiar with the black hole area. I didn't expect that Your Excellency Jia Yan is actually an outsider like us. Bei's eyes suddenly lit up. In this black hole area, much like in the North Superstar and other giant stars, there are many strong people from the outside world, but in fact they are still very few compared to the local strong people, and the local existence generally looks down on those from the outside world. Because the cultivation environment in the outside world is not good, generally those who can cultivate to a certain level and enter the black hole area will be very talented beings. After arriving in the black hole area, they will also compete strongly with the local beings. However, local people are naturally xenophobic, and outsiders naturally stick together. At least these three domain masters suddenly felt a little more favorable to Jia Yan when they heard that he was an outsider. It's like this, Your Excellency Jia Yan, although we in this black hole area may not have as many resources and training environment as the big stars such as the North Superstar, it is not too different. After all, except for the four giant stars, this black hole area is the place with the best cultivation environment in the entire galaxy. And compared to the four giant stars, to be honest, there are not that many strong people here. The domain lord status is higher and the danger is lower. Resources, it's not even close to reaching the level of a superstar, but it's better to go to a superstar and be an ordinary domain lord than to stay outside and be a leader. The resources are pretty good. Haha, yes, we all went to some superstars in the past, but it was difficult to make a name for ourselves in them. Everyone has even experienced danger, so they went out to hang out in the outside world. Now we are just messing around. It's much higher than the status among superstars. The three territory lords began to talk about the black hole area. Jia Yan flew silently and nodded. From the words of these three domain lords, he understood most of the things in this black hole area. In fact, there are not that many mysteries. Jia Yan originally went from the black hole area to the North Star. He was also chased by strong men from various forces on the way, including even the domain lord. So, how could he be in the black hole area? Maybe you don't understand. But what these domain owners said was supplementary to him. He could learn about this area from the perspective of high-end combat power. Speaking of which, brother, do you still remember that last time there was a lord from a fringe area who wanted to ask us questions about a middle-level peak powerhouse in the galaxy? He even had an inappropriate attitude. Haha, he was just a lord from a fringe area. It can only be regarded as a small force, but it still wants to make a decision with us, which is ridiculous. That's right, Your Excellency Jia Yan. The name of the mid-level peak powerhouse in the galaxy that the domain master asked last time seems to be somewhat similar to yours. He also said that he was gifted in subspace. He also said that he caused a wave of losses in their power, and ended up being a few of us beat him up and ran away, never daring to come back again. Oh. When Jia Yan heard this, he was stunned for a moment, then smiled slightly. If his guess was correct, then the domain master who found this force should be the master of the force he offended when he came to the black hole area. When he was in other people's power, he was chased by this territory lord and had no way to go to the sky or to the earth. However, because of the advantage of subspace talent, the other party couldn't catch him at all. In the end, he even made this territory lord, he had to give up the pursuit of himself. But what I didn't expect was that the territory lord never gave up and even went to a deeper place in the black hole area to ask for news about him. It is a pity that, judging from the words of the three northern Chennai territory lords, this territory lord must have suffered a big loss. Hey, that force chased me pretty hard back then. Whenever you have time, you have to go back and repay them properly. Originally, Jia Yan had forgotten about this force, but now that the three major domain lords mentioned it, he was able to pick up his memory again, and the memory of being hunted down in that force's territory began to become very clear. In the past, he had no choice but to endure such grievances, but now that he has reached the level of territory lord, and is even a powerful senior territory lord, what else is there to be afraid of? Revenge if you have a grudge, and retaliate if you have a grudge. Jia Yan sneered when he thought of this. But there is no hurry. The territory lord is stationed in that force, and it is on the edge of the black hole area. It is not a place where the battle is too fierce. It must not be destroyed by others so quickly, so wait for a while and then go and sit down. Seating passengers. Well, I'm kind of letting them enjoy life for a while longer. Jia Yan thought about this and thought that he was a benevolent domain lord. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2363. Your Excellency Jia Yan, look, ahead is the force that is planning to come and cause trouble to our Baichanayu force. Suddenly, Territory Lord Bei, the boss of Baichanayu's forces, stopped talking and pointed in the distance. The four major domain lords walked together, and their speed was not slow at all. In the time they spoke, they had already crossed a lot of distance and reached the edge of their influence. And outside this edge land, there is a large group of fleets and strong men, who have been waiting here for a long time. In this black hole area, not all battles are relatively fierce, especially between relatively familiar forces. The battles between the two sides are well understood. Generally speaking, they are such seemingly relatively peaceful wars. It is better to say it is a war than a small-scale conflict, or a test to see if the other party has made any progress recently, if any strong person is weaker, and there is a sense of change in the enemy's forces, then a small war and a small friction may also turn into large-scale war. Oh, is this the enemy? Haha, in terms of quantity and quality, they feel similar. Jia Yan casually followed the enemy troops lined up in the starry sky in front, looked all the way forward, and then nodded without much emotion. This is not unexpected. The forces that can be enemies with the Northern Morning Rain forces must have a similar level. The military strength of both sides seems to be about the same. In addition, on the enemy's side, there are a few auras of territory lords hidden deep in the army. Although they are well hidden, it seems to Jia Yan that their strength is not much different from the 3 territory lords around him. If he didn't join, this fight would be just a formality, and even the domain master might not even take action. But just because Jia Yan is here, this battle will not end so easily. Why is there an unfamiliar face among the Bachanai forces over there? And this head seems to be a domain lord? I can't feel the breath yet. It doesn't have to be the territory lord. Even if it is, it doesn't necessarily have to be the territory lord who helps the Northern Morning Rain forces. They don't have any close friends in this starry sky. At this moment, among the enemy army, concealed by the mighty enemy figures and battleship figures, there were several domain lord level beings hidden. These are 3 territory lords, and 2 of them have a stronger sense of strength than the Baikonur territory lord next to Jia Yan. The strength comparison between the 2 sides should belong to the 3 territory lords who are stronger. Baikonur the rain force has dropped slightly and it feels like there is a slight leeward force. However, because Bachanai is quite strong when working together, if the enemy wants to take down the 3 major domain lords of Bachanai, they will have to pay a certain price. In addition, in this area, the forces have roughly formed a certain balance. Bachanai said there was no external aid, but they paid tribute to a certain powerful force and received verbal protection from that force. Therefore, under various conditions, the Northern Morning Rain force was able to temporarily maintain peace with the force that came before them. But today, the territory lords in this force discovered that there was a strange being who was suspected to be the territory lord among the Bachanai forces. As an enemy, how could they not care? Bachanai only has 3 territory lords in total, and they are almost the same here. If Baikonur has 1 more territory lord, then their disadvantage will be great. A territory lord, even a territory lord with average strength, has a great influence on a force like theirs. You must know that the territory lord is not just a small role. Even in a superstar like Beostar, he will be a well-known big shot. If you don't know the origin of the other party, you can't be reckless. Go out and ask. Okay, if we are the territory lord, we will not fight if we can. But if we are the territory lord, the forces of Bachanai will not let us go so easily. We will act according to the situation later. Among the enemy's troops, the 3 territory lords originally thought that they would come out to meet the 3 territory lords of the Northern Morning Rain force later. It could be sensed that among Bachanai's forces, there was a huge suspected domain lord. They suddenly couldn't sit still and flew out of their respective bunkers. The 3 brothers of Bachanai, long time no see. A domain lord who seemed to have strong combat power flew out of the bunker covered by layers of troops and came to the open space between the 2 armies. For the territory lords, whether they come to the front line during the war does not have much impact, because generally speaking, their enemies are only the territory lords. The technological weapons seem to be powerful, but generally speaking, there isn't much of a threat to them. So whether you come or not is just a matter of attitude. Long time no see, everyone. Bachanai didn't feel anything was wrong, at least he wasn't surprised at all by the appearance of these 3 people. The 2 sides have been fighting back and forth, and the 3-on-3 style of play has hardly changed. So what is the surprise? What is more surprising is that one day they meet, the other party does not show up with 3 people. I wonder who this friend is. The other party seemed quite polite, looking at Jia Yan with a very friendly attitude. Hearing this, the three territory lords of Bachanai looked slightly proud, because even though the arrival of territory lord Jia Yan was initially a disaster, they later turned it around and turned into one of theirs. Foreign aid, this is something they are totally worthy of bragging about. Of course, they have no intention of bragging to their enemies. This is our friend from the outside world. He happened to come to visit today. I heard that you are coming to our northern Chennai forces to cause trouble again, so I stopped by to check on the situation. The Lord of the North Territory stepped forward and stood in the starry sky, speaking calmly. After Jia Yan listened from behind, he felt a little impressed by this creature's shamelessness. I clearly came here to cause trouble for you, and at most, with your compensation, my hostility turned into friendship. In your mouth, I actually turned into a friend in the first place. I don't even have the shame to say this. When Jia Yan came to Bachanai's forces, the whole process of the commotion and fighting should be easily communicated to the outside world. When the Northern Territory Lord lied, he did not consider whether the lies would be quickly disseminated. Expose. Oh, it turns out he is a friend from the outside world among the three enemy domain lords. Another elephant-like creature snorted coldly, Your Excellency, you should know that we and Bachanai it's a discord between forces. If you don't want to get involved in the fight between us, please leave. The elephant-like long-nosed creature was neither humble nor arrogant in his words. He was neither respectful nor too disrespectful to Jia Yan, just in a very equal attitude. But this attitude was a bit harsh to Jia Yan's ears. This mood involves the difference in understanding between the two parties. The other party believes that there is no need to be too groveling with a strange being of the same level, who may not even be as strong as them. But the problem is that Jia Yan is not at the same level as them, but a combat-talented territory lord who is equivalent to a senior territory lord. With such fighting power, he really wouldn't have the slightest fear against ordinary domain lords. He didn't even think that the other party was at the same stage as himself. So the other party spoke with an equal attitude, which made Jia Yan feel uncomfortable. I am on my friend's property, why do you want to leave? But you, I heard from Bachanai's three friends, where you are standing now is still your own territory, but if you dare to step into my friend's property, don't blame me, I helped my friends and expelled you and others. Since he was uncomfortable and the other party was not as strong as himself, Jia Yan, who was already the domain lord, thought it was necessary for him to show his face as a real strong man. A strong person is not strong if he looks forward and backward. Jia Yan felt very useless when he was in the middle stage of the galaxy, so he worked hard to cultivate to be a territory lord. After finally cultivating, he was asked to be useless to a creature that was not as weak as himself. How could that be? Practice shit. So he hit back hard. After hearing this, the faces of the three enemy domain lords changed wildly. Needless to say, on the side of the Northern Morning Rain forces, the faces of the three Northern Morning Rain domain lords also changed. After looking at each other, they spoke to each other. The solemnity was different, and they all became happy. They brought Jia Yan here just to see if Jia Yan would be willing to help their Northern Chennai forces as agreed. If so, this would be a good start for them to get a domain master with subspace talents in the future. With Xiang's help, Bachanai's power will steadily improve to a new level. Even if they had to give up their interests, or have an extra eldest brother among the three brothers and become four brothers, they would be willing to do so. Now it seems that Jia Yan is really following their wishes and assisting the Bachanai forces, so how can they not be happy? Your Excellency, have you ever thought about the consequences of saying something like this? We have no grudges against you. If you say the wrong thing, this hatred will be forged. Among the three domain lords on the other side, the first one spoke like a person in charge and looked at Jia Yan solemnly. The enemies of the three brothers Bachanai are the enemies of me. If you don't understand me, you can come here and try. Jia Yan looked at the three domain masters hundreds of kilometers away, staring at each other's feet, as if expecting the three of them to step into the starry sky. Don't doubt Jia Yan's determination. If they dare to come, he really dares to attack. After all, if he wants people from the Northern Chennai force to do things for him, he has to pay accordingly. Otherwise, it is impossible to achieve the effect Jia Yan wants just by relying on threats. Shameless talk. The elephant-like creature that had been looking at Jia Yan disapprovingly swung its long trunk and rushed forward. In one step, he crossed the border between the two forces and entered Baikanayu's computing power. Brother Bay, tell me, what measures does your force take against the creatures that come to your force without permission? Jia Yan didn't even look at him. He turned around and used his brainwave power to ask calmly in a conversational voice that everyone could hear clearly. Your Excellency Jia Yan, our faction has rules. Anyone who comes to our Northern Chennai faction without authorization will either be caught and fined a large sum of money, or they will be killed. The Northern Territory Lord obviously knew what to answer to Jia Yan's words. Should he be caught and fined? That's fine, I'll catch him for you. If he's caught and killed, don't blame me for causing you trouble. Jia Yan smiled, and before the people around him could react, they rushed out like flying. Puff. In the normal space, a group of explosive objects exploded, and the two sides quickly collided. The opponent's long trunk suddenly swung like a whip, hitting Jia Yan in front of him. You said you want to arrest me? Haha, if you have the ability, you can go ahead and arrest me. The talent of the elephant trunk creature is that he has a very telescopic trunk, which can be struck straight away, like a thunderous strike, fierce and precise. But Jia Yan's strength is not weak. He has always used subspace and yin-yang methods to fight in the past, but before he was promoted to Territory Lord this time, he had seen a lot in the North Star. He had a real understanding of the path of the strong, energy, and ordinary fighting methods. All have essential insights. Therefore, in this battle, he did not plan to enter the subspace, and did not even think about using his Onmyodo abilities. He just fought with ordinary fighting methods. Of course, even if he uses ordinary fighting skills, he still cannot be weaker than an ordinary domain master, it will just cost a little more energy. The feet are no slower than the elephant's trunk, throwing out a long shadow that collides with the approaching elephant's trunk. When, after a loud noise like the earth was shattering, the shock wave caused by the Territory Lord level battle suddenly crashed into the surroundings, causing several Territory Lords not far away to take a few steps back. This elephant trunk has reached this point without even realizing it. His fighting power is much stronger than when he fought with me. I wonder if Your Excellency Jia Yan has any way to deal with it? The faces of Bai Chanayu and the three others suddenly became serious. No wonder this enemy force dared to come to trouble them. It turned out that someone had made a breakthrough in a small realm. Although it was impossible to reach the senior domain lord level, it was about 10% stronger than before. The three of Bai Chanayu, who were already weaker than their opponents, might lose miserably if they rashly fight them again. Of course, it is impossible to die, but it will become very passive. The conditions for the armistice may be more stringent than before. While they were relieved, they were also worried about Jia Yan. This elephant trunk creature came with two enemy domain lords, and it also displayed an aggressive attitude. The reason was simple. It must have come deliberately to test its own strength and put some pressure on Bai Chanayu's forces. Nowadays, no one from the Northern Chanayu forces is taking action, but they are taking action against a strange territory lord, that is, Jia Yan. He must be very unhappy in his heart, and maybe he will take action. Jia Yanqiang is strong, but as far as the three of them are concerned, they rely on their subspace talents. Now that they are fighting head-on with an elephant trunk creature who is good at frontal combat, is there any possibility of surprise? Worried, they couldn't really do anything to help Jia Yan. After all, Jia Yan was not that close to him. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2364. In addition, Jia Yan was boasting a lot before taking action. If he helped rashly, he might make Jia Yan unhappy. No matter how hard they fight, they don't worry. In addition to Jia Yan's super strength, he is also a subspace gifted creature. He is the kind of existence that is difficult to die. If the elephant trunk creature wants to kill Jia Yan will definitely use his subspace talent, so there is nothing to worry about. Boom boom boom. Oddly enough, Jia Yan's fighting style was different from what the three powerful northern Chennai forces had imagined. He didn't actually enter the subspace, nor did he use the unique defensive skills that Jia Yan used when he fought against them last time. Head-on, a battle started with the elephant trunk creature. Stab on the foot, open the elephant's trunk, and then use the other foot to swing it over like a whip. You know, Jia Yan's feet are not short, each one is more than twice the length of his body. The trunk of the elephant trunk creature seems to be very long, about this length. Moreover, Jia Yan has more than one leg. In this way, the advantage that the elephant trunk creature seems to have has actually turned into a disadvantage. The most advantageous areas were all suppressed by Jia Yan. Bang! Puff! The elephant's trunk seemed to be in danger. It was whipped wildly by 3 or 4 feet, making the elephant trunk creature seem to be greatly suppressed. Although this is only a superficial phenomenon, it is not much different. Damn it, this insect creature is so suppressing the elephant trunk, why don't we go over and help? Humph, it seems that this guy's fighting power is all about his feet. If he didn't have so many long and fast feet, his fighting power wouldn't be that strong. Superior. In this battle between forces, there is no one-on-one battle. After all, everyone is fighting for interests, and it is not a battle between strong men, so there is no reason why they cannot join forces. The other two powerful enemies suddenly rushed into the battle group. This made the 3 territory lords in Baichanao's forces eager to join the battle group. Although they also understand that Jia Yan and them can only be regarded as preliminary cooperation at the moment and cannot be said to be a very good lifelong friendship, at least Jia Yan is helping them fight, and they also understand that Jia Yan has not yet used "I'm trying my best, so why can't I help sell a favor? Your Excellencies, there is no need to join the battle. I will handle it myself." Suddenly, they heard Jia Yan's calm words. It can be seen that Jia Yan has no intention of taking action from these 3 domain masters, because Jia Yan originally believed that his fighting power was sufficient. He didn't even use his full strength when fighting the 3 major domain lords of the northern Chennai forces, so how could these strong men see that Jia Yan's true combat power had reached the level of a senior domain lord? Of course, he was not prepared to use all his strength to deal with the 3 major domain lords at the moment. Preparing to do it alone, it's not that Jia Yan is very good to Baichanao's forces, it's just that he has just completed the digestion of all his territory lord energy. At this moment, he can be regarded as a strong territory lord, and he is stable. He wanted to try out the type of energy he could control, to what extent he could control it. It is said that the strength just after promotion will have a period of violent energy. On the surface, the combat power looks good, but it is some kind of violence. On the surface, it may be more powerful than he is now. But violence doesn't mean you can fight. After he has stabilized his strength, an ordinary blow may not be as effective as his own fighting power during the violent period. But the problem is that violence does not mean that you can hit people, nor does it mean that your moves can exert all your power to the limit. Otherwise, it would be fine if everyone went out to show off their power after being promoted. Why would most of the powerful people have to hide after being promoted? That's right, in fact, most of the powerful people who have just been promoted don't feel that they are strong in the violent period at all. That is Jia Yan, who still uses the combat power of the violent period to fight with others. But now, he has been promoted, his realm has stabilized, and his combat power seems to be not as strong as in the violent period, but in fact, he has a more refined and thorough understanding of himself, and he has become more familiar with the precise operations that he was not able to use in the past, so ever since, even if the fighting power was calm, it was still a little stronger than it was then. Of course, it can't be compared to the previous battles in the promotion stage. When you need to face a lot of enemies, the violence stage is more useful, because it can be solved with violence alone. In short, when dealing with the three major domain lords at the moment, Jia Yan doesn't even use all his strength. He just uses it to understand his own moves and understanding of his body. It's better to be more delicate. Otherwise, in the violent stage, the enemy will be killed in just a few moves. Can't feel anything. Puff. The first enemy came to Jia Yan's side. He and the colorful butterfly domain lord that Jia Yan had fought before seemed to be creatures of the same race. When his wings flapped, the whole world was filled with colorful illusions, which was so beautiful. Jia Yan was almost stunned, his whole mood suddenly moved, as if his mind was affected by this power. Take advantage of the opportunity to take action. The colorful butterfly creature shouted with joy. Got the order. On the other side, there is a creature with a single horn, which looks like an ancient dinosaur on Earth. It stabs at it with a horn, like thousands of horses galloping, and it is extremely majestic. If he was stabbed by the horn of this giant thing, even a territory lord would definitely not be able to sustain it. It is possible for the body to be pierced by it. If it's pierced, it means death. Although the cooperation between the three of them is not at the level of Baichaniu's three territory lords, because their attributes complement each other, they are extremely compatible. They can work together to defeat ordinary territory lords. As long as they are not too strong, they will usually join forces like this. Once the fight breaks out, no domain lord can withstand it. Snort. Jia Yan struck with his foot and knocked the horned dragon-shaped creature away a little distance. However, this slap also made his foot feel a huge shock force, which made Jia Yan slightly shaken. Shocked, what a powerful dragon horn. Watch the fight. On the other end, when Jia Yan was entangled with these two creatures, the elephant trunk creature suddenly swung its trunk and whipped it towards Jia Yan's body. This is another tacit understanding between their three major creatures to fight together. Generally speaking, after the three moves are combined, many domain lords can no longer resist it. They completely become passive and take beatings, and they will inevitably become a losing situation. Unfortunately, what they were dealing with this time was Jia Yan, and it was a multi-legged creature. Each of its legs had amazing combat effectiveness. Whoo! Whoo! In space, each of those legs with a length of hundreds of kilometers was like overwhelming mountains and seas. Compared with the elephant trunk creatures, it used a more terrifying attack range and breadth, as well as similar agility. Suddenly, confronted all three major domain lords. Even though the attack of the elephant trunk creature came from behind, because he swung the trunk really fast, he was the first one to arrive. Jia Yan had already used his right front foot and was directly facing the elephant trunk creature. Fight together. As expected, he had just been promoted, and his speed was a bit faster than the other two colleagues. Unfortunately, Jia Yan's speed was not slow either, and his feet became entangled with the elephant's trunk. On the other side, Jia Yan saw the reality of the colorful butterflies. He didn't even look at the countless female mosquitoes flying around him. What the hell, this butterfly creature looks much worse than the last time I encountered it, okay. Seeing that I am a male mosquito, why are there a bunch of female mosquitoes? How about some female humans? Does the female mosquito feel better at all? Jia Yan was speechless about this colorful butterfly creature, but what he didn't know was that others were also surprised. Because as a hallucination creature, he himself cannot actually see what the enemy is caused by his hallucinations. Otherwise, every time he confronts the enemy, he can see clearly into the enemy's psychology. Wouldn't he be invincible? He just used his illusion and psychological guidance ability to make the enemy appear in the deepest part of the opponent's heart, which is most likely the softest place and the easiest place to be attacked. Every strong person, even a strong domain lord, will have the weakest shortcomings. This is a problem of human nature, and it is impossible for any strong person to avoid it. Unfortunately, he immediately felt that he had not used his power well. Otherwise, why would the insect-like creature in front of him not be affected at all? Because Jia Yan's feet were not affected by the hallucination at all and stabbed him hard. He had to use his butterfly wings to suddenly block the attack in front of him, and was stabbed hard. Fortunately, the surface of the wings had his brainwave power to defend him, so he was not directly stabbed. Became a beautiful butterfly with injured wings. After that, there was the horned dinosaur-like creature that was deflected to a certain angle by him. When he arrived, he was accompanied by an endless sense of power, as if thousands of horses were galloping. However, Jia Yan's slender feet, which seemed to be much weaker than theirs, blocked them and moved to the side. Fortunately, this kind of collision attribute creature often faced such a situation, so he quickly turned his head, causing him to change his direction in an instant, towards Jia Yan's direction, just a little slower. Aimed at his chest, and hit him again. This kind of creature that only knows how to hit has grown to the level of a domain lord. To be honest, it is extremely pure. Under certain circumstances, it is the most troublesome among the three domain lords. Because everyone is a territory lord, even if there is a senior territory lord, as long as he is not focused on defense, he will not ignore the attacks of the territory lord and only know how to attack the territory lord. If you practice your attack power for a lifetime and treat it as if it is ignored, then you are asking for death. Anyway, Jia Yan didn't ignore them, and he didn't want to activate the power of a senior level combat type domain lord. Generally speaking, it is difficult to see fighting types in the outside world. Because of the external environment, it is difficult to cultivate fighting types. Even if a creature with a certain talent is fighting type at certain levels, it will fight immediately at the next level. Return to the original shape, because the outside world does not have that environment. Therefore, Jia Yan, a fighting type territory lord, can be said to be extremely rare in the outside world, because the existence of the fighting type means that he must maintain the fighting type at every level in the past, otherwise it will be impossible to maintain the territory lord level. So if he goes out now and says that he is a senior domain lord, people will believe him, and maybe they will be surprised that a new senior domain lord with a new face has appeared inexplicably somewhere. Puff. This time, Jia Yan lightly touched his hind foot without any of the domain lords present noticing. Then, the hind foot after the collision only exerted a slight positive and negative force. The dinosaur-like unicorn dragon creature collided with the oncoming collision. Ouch! This time, as if it was hard for others to accept, it was the opponent's unicorn dragon creature that howled miserably. Originally, I thought that Jia Yan's thin horns would be hit by the opponent. Even if they didn't break, they would cause extremely serious injuries to Jia Yan. But what shocked others was that it was the thin feet that won. The one-horned dragon was suddenly thrown aside by the force of the collision between the two sides. He, who thought he was born with divine power, was completely confused. He looked at his horn and saw a scratch on his foot. It feels like life has been wasted. How could it be possible? He hadn't trained to the extreme. Even if the average strong person was stronger than him, he wouldn't dare to collide with his long horns. However, Jia Yan did not completely win. He only used his hind feet, and he only quietly used a little positive and negative force. So after this blow, he also felt that his hind feet were very powerful. Aching, his entire huge body fell back 50 or 60 kilometers. The two domain masters behind him seized the opportunity. It's not like they didn't calculate that Jia Yan would not be injured by this impact. But I didn't expect Jia Yan to be so calm, and also bring their unicorn dragon creature, which is famous for its brute strength, to Shuyuan uses a hindfoot that should not be used much in normal times, giving him no advantage in counterattack. Of course, they would be satisfied as long as Jia Yan was knocked into their encirclement by this unicorn dragon creature. Puff. A sharp sense of attack suddenly appeared from behind, and Jia Yan's heart froze. A territory lord is a territory lord. Even if he has killed so many territory lords before, it will be difficult for him to win in one fell swoop if he only has a few remaining hands and meets several territory lords who cooperate well. But that's it. He feels that as long as he slowly feels the speed of domain lord level battle and the reaction level to be achieved, he will slowly take the initiative in this battle. After all, he has that ability in the first place. At this level, even if he kept his hands, as long as he kept calm and became familiar with the fighting style and level, he could gradually understand the level of domain lord level fighting. That is to say, he will become stronger and stronger in this battle. Even if he retains his skills, he will definitely be able to easily solve the battle. Of course, he is still a little short of that. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2365. This battle is extremely important to Jia Yan, because he has not fought many domain lord level battles. Without a series of familiarization, he can't even fight with such a fast fighting style, as well as territory lord level battles. The unique fighting experience between them will become very messy. Therefore, such a battle will make it easier to master his strength. This was of course Jia Yan's original thought, otherwise he would not be so stupid if he was just working for the three brothers. Sir, who are you? At this time, when the three territory lords joined forces, they were almost defeated by Jia Yan alone. The face of the leader of the three invading territory lords suddenly changed wildly. He couldn't help but stop and looked at Jia Yan coldly. He seemed to be cold and frosty, but in fact, he was completely giving up. Inexplicably, among this unpopular outsider force, another territory lord appeared who was definitely stronger than the three territory lords of Baichanayu. They had to pay attention to it, not to mention the current situation. The opponent only dispatched one person, Baichanayu, and the three territory lords have been watching from the sidelines. If they take action, the three intruders will definitely suffer huge losses. It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that you have violated my friend's territory, so I need to arrest you and punish you. If you don't want to get hurt, just be restrained by me. Jia Yan had no intention of telling his origins. Humph, you are still saying these words now. Your Excellency is too arrogant. You are the domain lord, but the three of us are also respectable existences. The elephant trunk creature had the ugliest look on his face, because he had just been promoted to a small level of strength today, and it was he who encouraged the two domain lords around him to come and cause trouble for Baichanayu, who had no one to help him. Although it was impossible to defeat Baichanayu, but they could suppress Baichanayu, and they could also demonstrate their new fighting power to the two brothers. However, they never expected that there would be a strange domain lord in Baichanayu, who would take him. The pretense was interrupted. So he was extremely angry. Beings who are in the stage of rising strength are generally more impulsive. Even Jia Yan cannot escape this law, and the same is true for the elephant trunk creature in front of him. Do you have a reputation? Your reputation may not be as big as you think. Jia Yan didn't say much, and went straight to the elephant trunk creature who was still thinking of fighting with him. Then, a layer of light blue surged on his 2 feet. The so-called pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger means that after pretending to be a pig for a long time, you have to turn into a tiger, otherwise you are just a pig. Jia Yan was not one to hide his strength after being laughed at or offended, so he used a certain amount of yin and yang dao power. Clang. Positive and negative forces flow between the feet. Well done. The elephant trunk creature thought that Jia Yan's moves were the same as before. After sneering, he suddenly came forward. Based on previous battles, he thought that even if this move would be enhanced to a certain extent, he also had new and more powerful moves that he had not used yet, so he did not think that he would be defeated. Puff. The confrontation between the two sides took place after an unpretentious collision. But the seemingly innocent collision turned into some kind of shocking astronomical phenomenon in the moment after the impact. The brilliant brilliance shined from the intersection of the collision, and then shot far away in all directions. It is possible that there are almost no creatures below the heaven level living in this black hole area. The reason is that ordinary creatures cannot withstand the fluctuations caused by the battles of strong men, and those at the heaven level will die easily. Jia Yan, who was in the center of a large amount of violent energy rays, actually had so many thoughts to think about other places. But while thinking about this, he already felt that his toes had quietly pierced the surface defense of a certain creature, and then stabbed in lightly. Then, like cutting tofu, he suddenly rotated his foot and cut the biological organ that the foot penetrated into two pieces. Ah! At the same time, a shrill scream resounded through the center of the current battlefield. Show mercy. Bachanaya forces, do you really want to trigger a full-scale war? The other two domain masters were still fighting with Jia Yan's other legs at this time, unable to get away to assist the elephant trunk creature. So they hurriedly shouted in shock and anger to Jia Yan to stop. But they kept shouting. How could Jia Yan listen to the shouts of outsiders? The shining battle brilliance flashed by, and the scenery at the center of the battle was clearly visible to others. Maybe at this moment, even several domain masters did not expect that the battle situation would be so tragic. That elephant trunk creature's extremely proud trunk, which is also the hardest part of his body, was directly separated from his body. His seemingly thinner feet were like the sharpest knife in the world, cutting into his body. The elephant's trunk was cut in two. Ouch! The elephant trunk creature seemed to be crying or howling. The entire sound could penetrate the stars and be directly transmitted to places tens of thousands of kilometers away. He was really miserable. You know, this guy's talents are all on the trunk. Just like the other unicorn, he lives entirely on this thing. But what he didn't expect was that another strong man gave him a kick and cut off the elephant's trunk. This problem was too big. His combat power was at a very low level. Even though he was still considered a territory lord, he was instantly reduced to the level of the weakest territory lord. I want you to die, I want you to die. The elephant trunk creature's eyes suddenly turned blood red. It looked at Jia Yan as if Jia Yan had sworn hatred for him. That's right, in fact, this is sworn hatred, because even if he can use his strength to connect his trunk, he will definitely not be able to use it as before. Ordinary creatures are not evolved beasts like Jia Yan. You can rely on mutation and evolution to resolve physical disabilities, but this elephant trunk creature can't do it anyway. As a result, his strength became a permanent loss in this battle. How could he not bear his grudge against Jia Yan? You know, this elephant trunk creature, the so-called breakthrough is on this elephant trunk. What he never expected is that he still wanted to brag, but he completely lost the elephant trunk that had just made a breakthrough. In this battle, it was really a loss of troops and generals, a complete defeat. Oh, you want me to die? First, pay the penalty for invading my friend's territory. Jia Yan snorted coldly, and ignored the creature's gaze that was about to spit out fire. He thrust his other foot fiercely and stabbed the elephant trunk creature in the chest. Without the trunk, the creature suddenly turned into a reckless man. Even if he saw Jia Yan's movements, there was no reaction to his subconscious movements of the trunk because the trunk was gone. After being stabbed by Jia Yan's brainwave power surged over him, causing him to be threatened by the power of positive and negative yin and yang all over his body. He was unable to move and did not dare to move, because as long as he was hit by Jia Yan's brainwave power, if it explodes in his body, he is truly dead. First, Jia Yan said this calmly. Then, he ejected with his hind foot, knocking aside the unicorn dragon creature that was charging towards him. This counterattack already used a lot of his yin and yang Dao power. The unicorn dragon creature that collided with him could not break through Jia Yan's hind legs at all, and flew aside in one breath, only to be brought to Jia Yan's side. Come and take 3 or 5 steps back, which is a small impact of dozens of kilometers. This. Seeing that Jia Yan had already neutralized the impact, and then threw the half-dead elephant trunk creature behind him, the 3 northern morning rain territory lords were also stunned. This one-horned dragon creature only felt a chill running down its spine. He felt that he and others might capsize in the gutter today. I originally thought that although the northern morning rain forces have been competing with them for a long time, they have always crushed the northern morning rain forces. There are other big forces behind me and others. This action is definitely like an outing. Activities. But what they never expected was that this sudden territory lord would turn all their plans and thoughts into a joke. Such a powerful territory lord is actually the person behind Baichanayu. Yes, this must be the big backer behind Baichanayu. Thinking of this, the remaining 2 major domain lords felt their whole bodies trembling, thinking of Baichanayu's intention for this war. They wanted to use the battle with the 3 major domain lords of the northern morning rain forces to test the new strength of the elephant trunk creatures, and at the same time put pressure on the northern morning rain forces again. And why can't others do the same thing? You know, the domain lord creature in front of you, just looking at the current strength, is definitely an almost senior person. At least it was a small level stronger than the other 6 domain lords they were present with. Don't underestimate the small levels. At the domain lord level, a small level can often kill countless domain lords. Every breakthrough is a big step forward in status and strength, which is enough to crush several domain lords one level below. Lord. The current situation is also the same. This strange enemy territory lord crushed a few of them. Although it didn't look so clean and tidy, strength is strength. After such a round of fighting, they were already helpless. All the elephant trunk creatures were captured by mistake. If this continues, it is inevitable that they will lose. Your Excellency. Please don't take action yet. Please tell me your request. That's right, you can't hurt elephant trunk anymore. If he dies, I guarantee that you and the Baichanayu forces behind you will be in trouble. The 2 domain masters took a deep breath and forced themselves to calm down. After keeping a certain distance from Jia Yan, they looked at him calmly. Jia Yan never thought about wiping out this force like this, because the bargaining chips given by Baichanayu's forces were not enough to make Jia Yan work so hard. After such a battle, he himself felt relieved. Not only did he have a firm grasp on the power he had just been promoted, and his understanding of fighting against the territory lord had deepened, but the bigger aspect was that Jia Yan felt that he finally had a mentality where he no longer regarded the word territory lord as too frightening. Object. That's right, even though he had already dealt with a large number of territory lords in the North Star, Jia Yan still had a very obvious fear of territory lords. This is a kind of fear that has been lingering in my heart not long after reincarnation, and it is also a kind of nightmare that has been lingering. It cannot be resolved in 1 or 2 battles. You know, he has been chased by the domain lord more than once. Every time he is chased by this kind of existence, he feels like he is facing the sky, and he is completely helpless. Even now, he has only eased a little. In the future, if he does not strengthen the feeling that he has reached the realm master, fear may slowly arise again. It can be seen that the level of Domain Lord is a huge psychological shadow for Jia Yan. Of course he is like this, and so are others. It's just that most of the others have been promoted for a long time, and they clearly understand that they are already territory lords, so they gradually integrate into the territory lord level, and their fear is much less. Jia Yan is still a rookie who has just been promoted. But he is a relatively powerful rookie. Oh? Are there any strong people behind you who will stand up for you? Haha, you can go and invite him to try and see if I am afraid. Seeing that the two domain masters no longer attacked, Jia Yan felt at ease. He controlled the elephant trunk creature that was thrown away by him and fell into the hands of the three brothers Baichanayu. Then he turned his head and looked behind him, already feeling sad. Yan, the two domain lords who no longer dare to take the initiative to attack. Look, you two, are you going to surrender and be arrested, or are you going to pay a fine? I promised these three friends that you would pay the fine. Jia Yan's face was full of teasing and threats. Your Excellency, you are very strong, but you have always maintained such an attitude. Isn't there something wrong? After all, we are different from the three brothers of Baichanayu. We are local strong men, and there are more behind us. To back up terrible forces and strong men. The coming leader of the three domain lords forced himself not to get angry, but spoke extremely calmly. He understood that under the current situation, the three of them were no longer able to talk to each other on an equal footing with the territory lord in front of them who seemed to be more powerful than their three territory lords together. They could only put aside the backer behind them. Come out, otherwise this strange strong man may really hit their hometown in one fell swoop. Hey, guys, don't be like this. I didn't want to fight with you in the first place. Look, aren't you crossing the line? I didn't say that I wanted to go against the people behind you. I just happened to. I will just help my friend collect your fine. Okay, having said all that, are you going to give me a fine or not? If you do, I can definitely let him go. Jia Yan really didn't want to provoke a more powerful being. Because this is not his own business, presumably the powerful beings behind these three powerful men are either nearly senior territory lords who are 1 point better than ordinary territory lords, or they are simply a senior territory lord. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2366. For the current Jia Yan, no matter whether he is a senior or a senior domain master, it will be more difficult, so he does not want to help Baichanayu to this point. Fine? I will pay. Tell me, how much is the fine? The leader of the domain, after being stunned for a while, suddenly asked through gritted teeth. He believed that since Jia Yan and the others had captured a domain lord on their side, they would definitely open their mouths. And this matter is definitely an excuse. Whenever they fight, it's not you who cross my boundary, and I cross your boundary. Who will really abide by the vague concept of boundary? They are the domain masters and can do whatever they want. If they really win a big victory, they may be able to annex the opponent's territory of influence and fine them a ridiculous amount of money. Therefore, he believed that Jia Yan must have said this on purpose. Later, the territory lords of the three northern Chennai forces would tell an astronomical figure, and then they would have to pay a tragic price, and this war would be considered over. Lord of the North Territory, tell me, how much is the fine for someone from your power who makes an unauthorized leap to your power? Jia Yan turned around calmly and asked the Northern Territory Lord. Well. The North Territory Lord hesitated for a while. Based on the strength, the general penalty for reaching the galaxy level is 5,000 super energy. Territory Lord, there is no precedent, so let's calculate it as 10,000. Well, you three domain masters have crossed the border, and no one from the troops behind you has come over yet, so let's count it as 30,000 super energy. Jia Yan's calm voice made the domain masters on both sides stunned and speechless. No, brother, do you really just want to collect money? 10,000 seems like a lot. An ordinary galaxy class will not be able to earn so much money even in a lifetime. But the problem is that what Jia Yan caught was a domain lord. The value of a domain lord is not the same as that of a galaxy class. Measurable. What's more important is that you have captured one of the other domain lords, and it seems that as long as the three domain lords of the northern morning rainforest come together, it is not impossible to catch them all. If you really do that, the other forces will not be able to do it. It falls into your hands. Of course, it depends on whether the backers behind them will look for trouble, but after all, they have got a good hand, and what they gain may be far beyond what 30,000 super energy can measure. But unexpectedly, this strange and powerful domain lord actually said 30,000 super energy. That is the territory lord, an existence that cannot be measured by money. But you actually said it was just a fine? The three domain lords on the opposite side felt like they were trying to say something. I said this earlier, why bother? The elephant trunk creature looked at his broken nose and felt that he was at a loss. If he could, he would give him 100,000 super energy to replace his nose. After all, if this thing is broken, it will affect the rest of his life. I will give you, Your Excellency, I will give you 20,000 yuan. Can you let me reattach the nose first? I'm afraid that if it takes too long, it will be difficult to grow well in the future. The elephant trunk creature was extremely embarrassed. It was restrained by the power of several domain lords and did not dare to break free. It could only plead with a mournful face. The vitality of the domain lord creature is extremely powerful. If his broken nose is thrown into the starry sky, it will not be affected by the virus. It is estimated that it can drift for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years without losing its vitality. But the problem is that it needs to be reconnected. It's different. If you want to have a good reconnection effect, you have to do it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, the nerves and other organs will lose their effectiveness after being left for a long time, and there will be huge consequences in the later stage. 20,000, very good, give it to you. When Jia Yan heard the word 20,000, his compound eyes lit up. He looked at the elephant trunk creature behind him like a money maniac. Then he didn't bear any grudge against the other party's previous unfriendly attitude and directly broke it with the power of his brain waves. Pick up the elephant trunk in the center of the starry sky and throw it in front of the elephant trunk creature. The elephant trunk creature couldn't understand what this strange strong man was thinking. In short, he didn't care so much. The most important thing was to connect his elephant trunk. He quickly thanked him and then used his brainwave power to connect it. When I saw my broken nose, the cut surface quickly seemed to be glued back on again, making it look perfect. Of course, this kind of perfection is only perfect on the outside. When it comes to fighting, it is impossible to use this kind of nose for fighting. It will take at least 10 or even 100 years of hard work before it can be used to continue fighting, and it will last for a long time in the future. No one can guarantee how it will turn out. Fortunately, the time it takes to reconnect is very short, so the impact on the future may be minimized. The three Bachanayu territory lords next to Jia Yan wanted to say something when they saw Jia Yan returning the trunk of the elephant creature so neatly, but they were definitely not the same as Jia Yan. They had such a good relationship, so they stopped talking and kept their mouths shut. Jia Yan captured the people with one hand, how could they have the right to point fingers? Okay, Your Excellency is 20,000, so the total for you is 40,000. Pay the money and go back after paying. Don't come to the northern morning rainforest again. Jia Yan watched the elephant trunk creature finish doing this, and then waved his feet to ask the three domain masters to let go of the elephant trunk creature. However, the elephant trunk creature also did not dare to leave and stayed in place obediently. Okay, 40,000 super energy, right? Do you think you should accept the energy card in the form of a card, or the real thing? The so-called chip-type energy card is like bank notes, which is equivalent to credit currency, and there are many forces in the black hole area. The larger forces will issue their own energy cards, so in a sense, card-type energy cards, not so credit guaranteed. So Jia Yan shook his head, I want the real thing. If you don't have it now, let the troops behind you transport it, but you have to do it quickly. Our time is precious. Okay, let's get the troops to transport them now. The three enemy territory lords have long wanted to leave. Jia Yan's time is precious, and their lives are even more precious. God knows whether this inexplicable powerful territory lord will break his promise after a while. While asking the troops behind them to transport the super energy, the three domain masters also secretly arranged for someone to notify the leader of a certain force further away. At the same time, they were still in a tense atmosphere, deliberately chatting with Jia Yan, and kept testing Jia Yan's origins. There was no way they could not test the sudden appearance of a strange territory lord. Even if there wasn't today's battle, as long as they knew that a strange territory lord had come to help Baichanao's forces, they would definitely be cautious. Investigative. In fact, they had already learned the information about Jia Yan's riot in the northern Chennai forces some time ago, and this provocation may not have been caused by Jia Yan's riot in order to test the three domains of the northern Chennai forces. Lord, is it because of the territory lord who made trouble with the northern morning rain forces that I will be punished by everyone? If the three major domain lords of the northern morning rain force were injured under the attack of the noisy domain lord, they would not mind forcing the three major domain lords to let the northern morning rain force give up some of their benefits, or even force them to do so. Give up some territory. But what the three major domain lords who came did not investigate clearly was that the mysterious domain lord who made a big fuss with Baichanao's forces did not leave as everyone thought after causing a big fuss, but chose to stay in Baikan. The rain forces have even turned enemies into friends with the three major domain lords of northern morning rain, otherwise they would definitely be more prepared this time to come again. The three major domain masters of the northern morning rain force on the side seemed to have become outsiders. They watched Jia Yan solve the current problems familiarly, as if he had become the master of the northern morning rain force, arranging the punishment of the enemy, and then they were chatting with the enemy's domain lords, but they couldn't get a word in at all, feeling that the atmosphere was extremely weird. They looked at each other speechlessly, but they couldn't say anything. Of course, they had no right to say anything about Jia Yan's arrangements. Anyway, it was Jia Yan who caught him. In any case, it increased the reputation of their northern Chennai forces. Don't talk about anything else, I just want to say that after this wave, the popularity that Baichanao's forces have been losing recently will definitely make up for it, and even many people who have left will return. This embarrassing situation lasted until Jia Yan calmly exchanged fluent answers with the three enemy domain lords, and passed on basic information such as his name as Jia Yan and who he came from the outside world, and then it reluctantly stopped. Because the enemy army has already transported 40,000 super energy as quickly as possible. Yeah, very good. Then the six domain lords on both sides just watched helplessly as Jia Yan nodded, his brainwave power began to circulate, and a huge gap opened in the subspace, revealing a planet with a diameter of more than 1,000 kilometers, and materials fell into it. The surface of the planet. Everyone was stunned. Didn't he say that Baichanao forces would be fined? You are a little too aboveboard to seek personal gain from public affairs. Both sides felt messy in the wind because of Jia Yan's shamelessness. Then, the other three domain masters seemed to suddenly remember something. That is because they remembered that the northern Chennai forces were attacked by a strong man with subspace talents before. As for the person in front of him, although he has never revealed his subspace talent before, but now with the ability to control subspace, he is obviously a strong man with extremely good subspace talent. So he is. Thinking of this, the three enemy domain lords who came had weird expressions. Looking at the three domain lords of Baichanayu who didn't seem to be that familiar with Jiayan, they suddenly seemed to understand something. Your Excellency Jiayan, today's matter is really about me waiting for Meng Lang. You are still here to offend me. Please forgive me for my rude mistake. We can have a good relationship in the future. Our forces welcome you anytime and anywhere. Your presence. The three other domain lords didn't know what they said. Their attitude towards Jiayan suddenly became very good, and they enthusiastically invited Jiayan to visit their forces. It's easy to say, I will go next time I have a chance. Jiayan didn't reject people thousands of miles away, and accepted them all indifferently. Fighting is a fight, but when it comes to diplomacy, he will not completely reject it. There is no absolute right or wrong in the world. What's more, Jiayan's participation in this game between forces feels like he is stepping in. He has made a lot of money. Benefits, making friends on both sides is nothing at all. As for the three major domain lords behind him, the expressions of the northern Chennai forces were very ugly, so he didn't care about that much. See you later. To meet such a master of magnanimity as Your Excellency Jiayan today, it is a worthwhile trip. Chia, Your Excellency Jiayan, my elephant trunk is an offense today, and having my nose cut off by you is my own fault. Please don't remember this matter, and we may have the opportunity to be friends in the future. When the matter was over, the three enemy domain lords, who had been injured and paid a large amount of compensation, at least smiled extremely sincerely on the surface. After bidding farewell to Jiayan, they led the mighty enemy troops to their own homes. The territory of power recedes. In this black hole area, the gravity is extremely strong, and the stars are very close to each other. It is extremely normal for several suns to appear in the sky. The forces are usually very close to each other. The resources seem to be divided, but in fact they are still extremely small. Abundant. See you later. Jiayan didn't know what his attitude was. He greeted the three domain masters who were fighting to the death just now and said goodbye reluctantly. After seeing off the three enemy territory lords, when he looked back, he only saw three strange faces. Haha, brothers, you won't blame me for handling this matter without permission, right? He laughed and asked, seeming to blame himself. Ahem, of course not. Your Excellency Jiayan, your sophisticated way of doing things is really eye-opening for us. Yes, these three people have always shown off their power to our northern Chennai forces. You helped us defeat them today. It can be said that you have vented our bad breath. How can we blame Sir Jiayan? The three Baichanayu brothers shook their heads like rattles, fearing that Jiayan would misunderstand. Three of you, you don't blame me for collecting the fine myself, right? You must know that I spent a lot of energy in a battle, and this energy is only enough for me to rebuild. Of course, I won't blame you. This matter was handled by Jiayan alone. We watched a big show. It's better to say that we are the ones who benefit the most. How can we care that Jiayan only collects such a small amount of loot? The three domain lords praised Jiayan one after another, but did not talk about it at all. Jiayan swallowed up all the benefits of this battle, let alone pursued it. Jiayan turned enemies into friends, found Shuyuan, and finally even fell in love with each other. The conversation was very pleasant. This is the benefit of strength. Even if they knew that Jiayan did this on purpose, they would not fart. He had a good time with the three enemies who had just left. When he turned around, Jiayan became good brothers with the three great domain lords of Baichanayu. It seemed as if they all had won the victory through hard work, and they returned to their forces with laughter and joy. Lair. Of course, no one, whether it is the Northern Chennai Force Domain Lord or the three enemy Domain Lords who left behind him, regards Jiayan as a true friend. Everyone is just superficial, and the same is true for Jia Yan. And Jia Yan also saw the huge changes brought about by his promotion of strength through this duplicity. You know, these are 6 domain lords, and they control 2 major forces behind them. But because of his personal strength, he became extremely respectful to Jia Yan, an outsider who fought alone. At least on the surface, he could only swallow his anger even if he suffered a loss. Territory Lord. But that's it. Text download address. Phone reading.